Who's they? How can they hear me?
The chat.
How can they hear me? Streaming, it doesn't matter if
It's
they can
the-
read my lips.
Oh, there we go.
I don't understand the.
Oh no, they were actually just talking about it. Without.
Without me knowing they were talking about it?
Yeah. Did you know NetJet is based in Columbus?
I did not.
I did not either. Planned flight. Okay. SFO CVG. Number of passengers 1.
$12,000.
Gonna assume this is in ascending price, so I'll pick that aircraft. They don't give you a price. Weird, huh?
Call.
Yeah.
Please call for
You
information.
save 1 hour and 21 minutes versus commercial flights.
Sorry if I
Woo!
screamed.
Oh,
Wow. Scream now.
I hear
Background noise.
a lot about. Well, did we just turn something down on our side?
We did.
Why was it up for any particular reason as opposed to last week?
Same place where it was.
Okay, I also have a fan coming down on me. I probably need to
Jeez.
stop. Good,
Yeah,
bad, and different.
Yeah, you're
It's
real
better.
hot.
I am hot.
Well, yeah.
No.
Let me turn on this fan. Hang on.
Jeremy, is your volume sliders freaking out again? Or does it seem to resolve itself?
It's holding where it should for now.
Knock on wood.
It's a solid 83 and hasn't blinked.
Ooh, there we go. There's our nice little cover shot right there.
What? Josh's belly?
Yep.
Nice.
Oh, right. You can buy a prepaid lease with the Marquee Jet card, which is good for 25 hours of flight time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A single year starts at $119,900
Mhm.
in a Hawker
Ooh.
400 XB jet.
Oh, nice.
It seems perfect. They'll get you through like a month.
Yeah.
Got a good seat, though.
Yeah.
Let me ease Josh back in here.
What?
What's up? Josh, are your recording levels also freaking out as per last week? Hopefully not.
He's
what?
staring at the fan.
Your mic gain in Windows.
That tweet I retweeted, Josh, of the giant Threadripper processor
Uh huh.
that Jordan sent to you and me, and I retweeted it. Lisa Sue liked the retweet of that picture. Jordan pointed that out in the chat, and I had to go look it up to verify.
Oh, that's funny.
A sense of humor, I can appreciate that. Is it right here?
I'm
No.
here.
It's only 12 after. They say we're not up on Twitch.
I don't know, sometimes I have to refresh that page.
Well, we're doing all we can.
Hey, look. Unfocused.
Just like you.
I'm getting an advertisement on the Twitch page now. So I assume that means I will soon be live. Oh, good. It's a Bud Light ad.
Not really appropriate for us.
Depends.
Yeah,
Do I need to
whoever's
stay
asking,
hydrated?
whoever was asking about Twitch, their ability to like auto detect when somebody's live and push that out seems to suck because when I refresh the page, it works fine.
Someone is watching or asking you about mining hardware.
I don't know anything about it.
Weird.
We know nothing. Nothing at all.
Why do you ask?
No reason.
Actually, let me check the temperatures in here now. As I say that. That machine's off, correct?
Mm-hmm.
To prevent any further discrepancies.
My favorite is the one plugged into where the water fountain is usually plugged into.
Broken water fountain.
Water fountain works, just the
Noisy.
refrigerator of it does not work.
Might work if the fan.
Like the water flows.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't recommend drinking out of it for a while.
The fan makes it's like rubbing against the housing, so
Oh,
Damn
that's probably an
settings
easy
does
fix.
that fan have?
gotta take the housing apart. I don't know how the fan suddenly started to rub against the side of the housing since it's not like dented or anything.
Not funny.
Oh, and Josh just picked back up.
Yeah, that's weird. Hey,
What have I done now?
Yeah, you're clipping on.
you're doing the Jeremy thing.
Yep.
No.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, where's the setting that's supposedly?
Jeremy, explain.
Ba-dum. Oh, stop beeping at me, you damn thing.
It's recording settings and then
So,
the. Oop, go ahead.
and then advanced and turn off exclusive mode.
Turn off.
Mr. Mike properties. Allow applications to take exclusive control of this device.
Turn that off or turn it on?
Turn it off. Turn it on. Turn it off. Turn it on. Turn it off again.
Okay. Do I need to restart anything?
Nobody knows.
Sound right now.
Nope.
Nobody has any idea. All right. I just checked my flight status. I'm up to 73,000 miles this year.
What's
That's very
diamond?
exciting.
150.
125.
Ooh, shit. You're going to make it.
It's very likely.
That way you'll get dick.
I get nothing still. It was literally, it happened both ways. From my Atlanta to San Jose flight, there were 4 empty first class seats, and I was number 5 on the upgrade list. And I was like, you know what? Out of Atlanta, that makes sense, right? Atlanta is going to have a ton. Everybody flies Delta out of Atlanta, so that okay. I'm even impressed that I'm even up at close to 5. Right? But then San Francisco to Cincinnati, I'm thinking, first of all, San Francisco to Cincinnati, who's taking that flight? It was completely full. And then there were 2 first class seats available, and I was 3rd on the upgrade list. And I thought,
Well,
sons of bitches, that's twice. I'm pretty sure they just show you a
in
fake.
Cincinnati tomorrow.
Somebody needed to be there. That's okay.
I know that technically my boss.
The other
is
interesting.
assistant.
What camera is
Not planning on
that
going
shot
over.
from? It looks odd.
Mine.
It's on an angle, for one.
Well, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's that the color of my background matches the black on the tiling behind you.
He's getting
He does it like that.
getting fancy. The top down.
No, it was at an angle. It was weird. The other interesting thing that happened is I left my phone on, like I didn't put it in airplane mode because I was starting to fall asleep during takeoff. As it turns out, FAA the plane didn't crash, but I didn't, because I didn't have the internet. I couldn't check like how far along we were on the flight. They didn't have like the in-flight entertainment system for you to check how far along you were on the flight. And I was trying to calculate in my mind how much longer I was going to be on this plane.
Okay.
When I kind of like was waking up and stuff as people were bumping into me as drink containers or whatever. But anyway, I looked down at my watch, right? And I was coming from California, so it would have been on West Coast time,
Oh, and it shifted.
right? Well, it didn't,
Oh, it did.
right? But so I was like, okay, so I left, our flight took off at 3:15 Eastern time, and I'm supposed to land at 7:15. So, I can calculate how much time would be left there. So I did the simple subtraction math, and I was like, okay, there should be like 10 minutes left. So I was just kind of sitting there. And then like 10 minutes before we start like descent and all this type of stuff. And suddenly like the pilot comes on and says, you know, it's a little choppy. I'm going to turn on the seatbelt thing. I was like, okay. And he goes, we got about an hour and 15 minutes left. And I thought, what in the hell? Because I kept looking and I was like, maybe we got delayed on the ground in San Francisco. And I didn't know because I was asleep in the seat during like tarmac or something like that. Turns out, no, my phone did apparently
Shift by one
time zone while we were flying.
Yeah.
But didn't shift by the other time zones as we got closer.
It just caught enough signal.
Yeah, caught just enough to update its time zone. So I was like, I thought I missed an hour of life somewhere. I don't know.
I don't know how it happened, but I had
It's like
an
a
iPhone.
William Shatner episode of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Stephen King. Yeah.
I once had an iPhone that was like in airplane mode during takeoff, shift in the middle of flight, and I have
That
I
seems
still to
impossible.
This, I know, I agree, but I still to this day have
Maybe
no
you
idea
just
how
lost time, and it looked like
Maybe
it
it
shifted.
by an
Yes,
even
yes.
number of hours. Yeah.
There's a
All right,
GPS
can we do
satellite
this?
out there
Yep,
saying,
all right,
"Hey,
here we
by the
go."
way, change time zone.
I need to get Jeremy and Josh up where they need to be.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, Josh, you went way hot coming in again.
Okay. Do you want me to turn
No.
it down?
Josh always comes in hot.
He does. Way too fast and way too
Josh's
slow.
hot takes.
We have Linus in the Rain is in the chat.
How
Hey,
sad.
how about this?
He was in the rain in that video.
Better? Worse?
That's sounding better.
He had to
bring
take a
it back
walk
over here.
because of how mad he was.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, do me a favor.
Okay.
Make a Post-it note to yourself of like where that slider is so that when we do this again, we can start from the same place and like check to see if anything has changed through
Okay.
Windows, whatever.
He still seems hot.
Okay.
Well, we got
But,
the
no, he's not.
bus mix coming back on the physical mixer, and then we got the virtual mix in vMix for their audio coming back from vMix Call.
That's not confusing at all.
No, it's not.
No.
No.
So I've been trying to watch Josh and Jeremy on the actual VU meter in vMix, but that doesn't correlate to what the feedback coming is on the bus.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
I don't understand why that makes a difference.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't
It shouldn't
it
be a
should
thing.
just pass audio through
Right.
and then the freaking piece of equipment we have that is specifically meant to gate
Should just gate.
should do
Should.
its work.
Well,
Like, it doesn't make sense.
But
to
it
me why
only
doesn't
can
work. I don't
compress
know.
so much of the range. If it's if he's super hot, it's gonna kind of blow through it.
well there is a compressor running on there's audio coming back.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, where are you at?
Oh, who knows? On this end, it hasn't moved at all. It's picked volume and is sticking with it, or at least it's telling me that it is. Lord only knows what you're getting.
Did you pull your microwave for where it was last week?
No, it's see. You can see the thing there.
Yeah, I see it.
It's
I think
that
it's the
close.
same.
All right, that's about -12 on our mix.
He just left it there the whole time. He's been trying to use his computer around that
I
thing.
very carefully moved it over to his side, but didn't disturb the arm at all.
All right, how about
But
Josh?
yeah,
Where you?
it's
The rain in Spain falls mainly on the Haines.
Toasty,
Heinz.
I got blue
Toasty Mallow in
jeans.
the chat. So all my house has turned into an oven since all my friends use my apartment for mining since landlord pays for power.
That landlord's going to be pretty pissed.
Yes, they are. Wow, that means the AC is covered too.
You better hope.
The landlord
That,
pays for power.
that landlord's not going to let it be for free for very long.
Well,
I don't.
No.
Well, they might not. Well,
might not notice
like it's probably in a
Oh,
building
you're
where they
gonna know.
can't meter each individual unit.
that too.
That doesn't mean they won't charge money, but
Yeah.
like
To punish everybody.
Yeah.
How about now? Can we start now?
I think we can do that.
Thank you. All right, everybody.
Being a friend.
Here we go. 3, 2. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 453 being recorded on June 7th, 2017. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Welcome, everybody, to the crypto mining capital of Florence, Kentucky, where apparently while I was gone, every corner of the office now has multiple GPUs running coin mining and stuff like that.
I
So
don't know what you're talking about.
we definitely have shut a couple of the systems off so we can record the podcast without blowing any breakers.
White noise, etc.
Yeah, whatever. White noise is fine.
Yeah.
That just proves to people this is a real working environment.
Oh, it's
we're
working all
actually
right.
doing
Numbers are
important
crunching.
work. Yeah.
I don't even know what numbers are
Yes.
crunching anymore, but they're crunching.
I don't even know. Like I'm more confused by the fact that we're using what's nice hash is the is kind of the intermediary.
Very
but
nice.
yet we get paid in Bitcoin, but we're not really mining Bitcoin.
We're not mining Bitcoin at all.
We mine whatever somebody pays us to mine
Yeah.
through a bidding system. This is so stupid.
It's confusing.
This whole thing is
I spent
idiotic.
the better part of a week understanding it.
To create currencies that don't exist and
Yeah.
probably won't matter in 6 months.
And I still don't understand
What's this new one? Ethereum?
Ethereum.
Well,
That's been around.
Ethereum's like the third most popular one next to Litecoin and Bitcoin. Ethereum is not going to be able to be mined
So
soon.
this isn't going to be our big topic of the day. I just want to ask you a question. What is the goal? What the cryptocurrency is
Profit.
like? What is the goal?
It's like an anonymous currency, right?
Yeah, but is the goal of Bitcoin, which is the biggest named one, right, was to become a legitimate currency thing, right?
Yeah.
You could buy pizzas with it. You could go to stores with it. You could do all that other stuff, right? But it never happened.
Hold on. Hold that thought, because speaking of pizza,
I know the pizza guy.
do you know the pizza guy
Yeah.
story? Oh, okay.
I mean,
Well,
we
our
did the same
listeners
thing
might
here
not.
9 years ago, where 7 years ago, where we were mining Bitcoin, and had we let those go, I wouldn't have this fucking job. I'd be somewhere else.
So the
It
listeners
could be
know.
$80 million, right?
So the listeners know the first Bitcoin transaction was some dude got exchanged 10,000 Bitcoin so somebody can order like a couple of Papa John's pizzas for him or something like that, right? But the number was 10,000
10,000 Bitcoins?
Bitcoin were exchanged for a couple of pizzas. And today, 10,000 Bitcoin, well, one Bitcoin is what right now?
$2,700?
$2,700 for one Bitcoin. So multiply that by 10,000 and you have a really expensive
How can
couple
anybody
pizzas.
think that this is? It doesn't matter. We're
I
not
don't
going to
know.
talk about it. We're going to talk about it next week. We're going to have a
Just
story
get
about
the
this
money and
eventually.
run.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
get your money while you can. So let's talk a little bit about, I don't know, the show we're on. PCPro.com/live. We record the show on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And you can go there and hang out in the chat room and interact with us and see all these things we talk about for crypto mining, and I don't know what else we do.
Random other topic
You
of
can
the
see
week.
us try to figure out the technicalities of running a website in a podcast, a live stream every month or every week. If you want to come to those live streams, but you forget about them because you're very busy setting up your RX 400 series cards and in an 11 PCIe slot motherboard or something like that, you can go to pcpro.com/subscribe. You get this page here that basically asks for your name and your email address, and we will send you a notification when we're going to do a live stream. And not just for the podcast, but for other events that we might hold. Most recently, we had AimPad for analog keyboards. We had a really cool technical discussion about all that stuff as well. So pcpro.com/subscribe for that. And then we still have our Patreon campaign going. That is at patreon.com/pcpro. This is your opportunity, your method, if you want to contribute on a monthly recurring basis to what we do. If you like the podcast, if you like the videos, if you like the reviews we do, if you think that we should be able to keep people like Josh around, for whatever reason, whether it be, writing content or bathing, things like that, these are all necessary. The bathing especially. So we appreciate everybody.
This is all virtual. There's no smell-orama yet. You don't have to smell
Thank
me.
God.
Yet.
Yeah, we'll have to disable that if that ever,
Now,
pops
do
up.
we take Bitcoin?
I don't know. You have to ask Patreon about
No.
that. I mean, if you want to send me Bitcoin, I mean,
You don't even know how to get Bitcoin, do you?
I don't know how to. I don't know how to get Bitcoin. I don't know how to do that. But I mean, the answer would probably be yes. So we do appreciate everybody who is a Patreon contributor to our site. It's extremely helpful, and it's definitely needed. If you become a new patron or increase your patronage during the stream, I will read out your email and name and thank you during the live stream, which we have one of currently. A new pledge of $3.99 from Australia's weak arse exchange rate. So
$3.99.
so $3.99. Thank you
so
very much.
what everyone should do is they should install NiceHash on their computer, mine with their GPU, and then put that towards our Patreon.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
we're telling that. Yeah, that seems
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable.
So like a
and when your
10
GPU dies, we won't do anything about it.
correct. If your GPU experiences transistor evaporation, that's on you.
Could we set up a wallet for that?
I mean, we could.
Bitcoin wallet? PC per Patreon Bitcoin wallet, and just have the code just
I mean, it
could be
wouldn't
public,
be a
right?
Patreon at
would
that,
just be
really. It would just
that
be
money
a PC per
hit.
money
Yeah.
money drop.
But the code for that, the way Bitcoin worked, you
Okay.
could just
I bet you that website's available.
you could just put that wallet ID out.
Legal or illegal services.
Well, yeah.
Legal only. So there you go. There's that. So thank you to Australia. I guess not thank you to Australia's weak arse exchange rate, but there you go. There you go. All right. So let's talk about stuff. First thing we're going to do is talk with Alan about how 3D Crosspoint phase change memory works.
Hey, guess what? It's phase change.
Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, is I don't really want to walk through this thing where you've got a whole bunch of like sciencey terms and there's a freaking periodic table
You don't
in
like
here.
sciencey terms?
I mean, look, I ain't in school anymore.
Wait,
Which is-
did he
what?
put in case you forgot what the periodic table looks like?
I didn't say that. I don't think. Did I?
It's been a long time since I looked at a periodic table, and I wouldn't know the 16th column is where those particular.
You know what? Before this article, I really
Elements
didn't
are.
even know that columns corresponded to a particular group. I never
There you go.
actually
Really?
Are you
like.
kidding?
The noble gases.
Well, I get that, but I didn't like all the middle ones. Like, who the hell
Metals
cared
and
about those?
transition metals.
I agree.
yeah.
So I didn't know that the 16th one was chalcogenides.
Damn American schools.
Like that's just
Chalcogenides.
Chalcogenides.
Exactly. So 3D Crosspoint memory is the technology that powers Intel Optane and that Micron has announced is going to power future products of
Quant
theirs.
X.
Quant X is the brand they're using.
Mhm.
So basically, Intel and Micron both have been very cagey about how the technology works. Just trying to maintain their competitive advantages and doing all that stuff.
indeed.
So I would defer to you here and just say what's interesting about what I'm looking at here, I guess.
So I just kind of wanted to walk our readers through like what. First of all, like what's in there. Can we make a reasonable guess now that it's out, right? And we can. And then on top of that, and that the answer is phase change, right? But then on top of that is like, okay, what the heck is phase change, right?
Right.
Because not everybody can wrap their mind around, okay, you could say it's a phase change thing, but you don't even know necessarily what that means or how it stores bits or whatever.
Right.
So what it basically boils down to is just a mixture of some of the basically what's called like semimetals or metalloids as a group of elements in the periodic table.
All right.
Is actually in that periodic table. If you go to it, it's the yellow boxes
Okay.
there, right? So it's not a particular row or column. It's like a little cluster of them, right? And if you're into like semiconductor stuff or even just basic electronic stuff, and you looked at what makes transistors work and like P and N material work is like you dope silicon or germanium with some other kind of material, like boron is one of them. And oh look, those three elements I just named are yellow ones, right? So those are all kind of like the group of things that you make semiconductor kind of things out of.
Gotcha.
But what we're not used to, understanding or even knowing exist is that other elements from those groups of the metalloids, the yellow group there, can like undergo and have phase change properties. In other words, different kinds of structures based on the temperature that element or mixture of elements seems to be is sitting at for different durations of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And these mixtures of these things actually started out in things you would be familiar with, like CDRWs, DVDRWs.
Okay.
Those are the same kinds of mixtures of elements, are very similar. And if you just have them sit at different temperatures for different durations of time, they will have a couple of different possibilities of what their properties are. So one of those is called amorphous. The other one is called crystalline. So amorphous is just everything's all mixed together,
Right.
right? Like homogeneous is kind of like everything's nice, smooth mixture. Crystalline is just as you might imagine, like if you were to break it, like crack the material in half or something at that point, it would have like a rough surface to it. Like when you break a really hard metal and it looks like it's really a fracture to it and has like jagged edges and, crystalline surface, right? So those two different states actually conduct differently.
And so that's what phase change takes advantage of when...
So on the optical disc side, those two different properties, those two different states have different reflectivity. Right?
Okay.
So your laser, changed, bounced back or didn't,
right.
or bounced back less off of the surface, right? Versus if you were to actually put a couple of, voltmeter leads or test probes or whatever on that same material even,
right.
in the different states, they will conduct they have different properties of how they conduct, right?
Okay.
So when you basically, to make it super simple, if it's in the set state, the material is crystalline and it acts like a resistor. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Put a little bit of voltage on it, you get a little bit of current. More voltage, more current. Linear. Okay? Regular resistor. When it's amorphous, it has a completely different property that you might have never seen a thing do. Like, it doesn't look like a diode, it doesn't look like a resistor, a transistor. Basically, the voltage will increase to a certain threshold, and then all of a sudden, it starts to conduct. Only once you get past the threshold, okay? And then it acts resistive above that.
Okay,
All right. Thing is, it doesn't conduct at all. It looks kind of similar to like a diode profile, but it's really good at not conducting at almost at all until it gets to, in the case of that chart there, 0.6 volts, right? Thing is, once it starts conducting, the very same material that is now carrying current is resistive, and if you put enough voltage on it, you can actually change the temperature of the material. If you hold the temperature at around 300 degrees Celsius, it will grow crystals.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can let it cool back down. Now it's crystalline. And now it acts like a resistor from that point forward.
Gotcha.
Never changes until you get it up to around 600 degrees Celsius, which you would just apply more voltage to
The
it.
crystals melt away?
The whole thing just melts. It's like an ice cube melts.
Nice.
And then if you let it cool off rapidly, it passes through that 300 degree range too quickly for it to grow any crystals.
I see.
So it freezes in the amorphous state, and now it's back to that, doesn't conduct until it hits a certain point thing, right?
Okay.
So now you can store bits.
Yep.
Cool, right? Then if you scroll down some more,
Screw physical sciences. Materials are just magic.
dude, this is cool stuff, right? So you can skip all the other stuff. I go into detail on different kinds of materials and whatnot, but you skip to the next page. And this is what actually is like the magic, the true magic for making Crosspoint a thing that you can buy and like workable in a largely scaled thing with a relatively high density. Okay. And that is the selectors. This is like the true magic of this technology. Okay. Because phase change, we've heard about it for years. People have been messing with phase change, junctions for decades. We've heard about it for a very long time. And that's that chalcogenide material. That's fine. You can make one bit out of it all day long. You can make a bit with a transistor to select that bit all day long, but it's still a very large, relatively large storage device. You can't fit a lot on a die.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to put a bunch of them together as
to make
tight as
memory.
possible, as dense as possible, right? And there is a crosshatch style design, which is like as dense as you can make connections, right? And that's that grid we're looking at. But the selector is the only way that makes it possible for you to put these things so tightly together, because we actually have like a schematic diagram looking thing on the left there. You have a very large number of parallel paths around the very specific crisscross point that you're trying to pick.
Yeah.
Right? And they all seem resistive, and a bunch of parallel resistive paths, currents will find their way around it, and you can't read the bit you're trying to read. There's too much other crap in the way, right? It's interfering with your signal. By using the same kind of material that stores the bits, except doping it or manipulating the compound in such a way where it will not store a bit, you can make a thing called a Ovonic threshold switch, which basically doesn't conduct until the voltage to a certain point, then it starts to, right? And then once it goes back down, it basically resets. And you can start the process all over again because it didn't turn crystalline. It didn't stay resistant, right? So Intel and Micron, for this crosspoint stuff, built those switches into each cell. So each cell is like 2 parts. You got the part that stores the bit, and another part that's very similar material, just a little bit tweaked, that doesn't store bits, but acts as a switch so that none of the parallel paths see any current going through them. Which, that's what lets you zero in on the bit you're trying to actually access.
Gotcha.
Right?
Dude, this is all just PFM.
It kind
No,
of
it's
is.
PCM.
So
Oh,
You're
There's-
freaking magic.
there's actually some other stuff about Crosspoint that makes it even cooler in the respect of like, you know, we had NAND flash. We were running into limits when you tried to put it all in planar flash memory. So people started to have to go to 3D because you can only store so many electrons in a thing without them leaking out. And like if one leaks out, it actually changes the state of the cell. Like it changes the data you're trying to read if, you know, very few electrons leak. So basically NAND flash suffers if you try to shrink it too much. Phase change memory loves to be smaller because the smaller the junctions, the less material you have to change state.
That ain't American.
Not only that, it's a less amount of material that you have to heat up. Right? So it actually responds faster, et cetera, et cetera. Like all those things pile on and it gets better if you can have it small. So basically the reason we haven't seen phase change like mass produced until now is a company had to figure out how to make these junctions work with this switch or the selector and the phase change material right next to each other, right? And they also had to figure out how to shrink it down to about 20 nanometer size. So this stuff wasn't viable until it hit the node size that flash memory actually runs up against its limit with.
Okay.
Right? So it's like, that's good.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right? And we actually have a picture in here. Tech Insights sliced some of this open since, of course, like it's on the market now, so they could buy it and they have electron microscopes and whatnot, so they could really dig into it. But
What kind
it's
of
just
saw do you need to be able to get that?
I mean, I got a table saw in the lobby.
Yeah, just table saw.
Very
Just-
sharp.
we got a 16 gig Optane thing over there on the desk. We can just, you know, take it, hit the table saw, little magnifying glass, good to go. But the funniest thing I found when researching this article was that all these slides I'm putting in here, it's all open source information. You can Google around and find all these slides that I used. They're all put out by Intel and Micron and Mnemonics, which was acquired by
when?
Micron back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can make this in my backyard?
Well, it's
Not
like the
quite that open
companies.
source.
It's like the companies were excited, and they were presenting on these things at different events, saying, "Hey, look, this is exciting new technology that could be a thing." But then everybody clammed up in 2011, I would imagine, because somebody put enough math together there to go, "Oh wait, we actually can do this."
Enough math for the higher ups to go, wait, you idiot, stop talking about
stop
this.
talking
This is
about
a
it.
product.
It turned
Yeah.
from a research to a product at that point.
Yeah. And when it turned into that, everybody got quiet. The thing that kind of held me back on even writing this, it was that there was this nagging thing the whole time was that Intel like adamantly said this is not phase change memory, like at the Crosspoint
They
launch.
did, yeah.
Right there, it's not. But they also said the properties of the whole cell change when you write it. In other words, the selector and the material. Which, by the way, that's what happens if you have the switch that has to do a phase change at the same time that the cell itself changes phase, right? So like half of their statements match up with this. The other half kind of didn't. But I think what it's really down to, since there's overwhelming proof now that look, it's actually a phase change, is that what was the acronym I used in the thing? It's basically Intel might have been trying to protect their product, like they don't want to just come out and say, "Ooh, it's phase change," like 2 years ago,
Right.
because that would give everybody else 2 years to try to like make their own phase change, right? So it might be throw off their competition a little, and maybe they were defining phase change a little bit too precisely.
Right.
Like maybe they defined, oh, well, if we use this special kind of switch and selector, we're not going to call it phase change because everybody else is doing it with a transistor or something, right? So, I don't know. In the article I wrote, it was like, maybe they tried to say that a zebra wasn't a horse, right?
But I think there's
Like-
probably some animal scientists out there that will tell you a zebra is not a horse.
It's pretty accepted.
I mean, it's a
as
striped
horse.
horse. I get it,
Right. Yeah.
but
So there you go. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind of
like
like
an ungulate.
maybe that's where they were coming from. But yeah, I mean, literally everything we have access to now, including the Tech Insights piece, which they even listed some elements in their preliminary findings, and they all matched up to the chalcogenide kind of, material composition. So
it's cool.
it's really cool. It's really cool how that works, especially when you look at that cross section and you realize just how small. Like it's right there. Look at that cross section and look at how thin out of.
So to be fair, like the larger transistors underneath there are probably like, what are we looking at size wise? This is built on 22.
Well, no, it's 22 is the cell sizes of the phase change.
Oh, okay.
So those transistors, now granted, those are meant to be like power handling, so they're
Right,
going to
right,
be
right.
larger. They're probably like 40 or 50
Okay.
nanometer ish, right? Yeah, but and you can tell like that driver circuitry is mounted underneath, and out of that whole thickness of that die, you have 2 layers of crosspoint sitting there, and it's almost nothing of the thickness
Yeah,
of the thing,
yeah.
right? So.
Interesting.
And they're supposed to be able to stack these higher than 2 layers. 2 layers is only supposed to be the initial thing. Think of how many layers you could physically fit in there.
Let's hope they do it sooner and cheaper.
Well,
Like 10 cents per gig.
just remember, the more layers you stack on top, the more complicated it becomes to drive the different layers, right? Because you're adding another
Yeah.
layer, you have another whole set of connections to make, right? So you need more driver circuitry underneath, right? And on top of that, you're also adding another layer worth of possible parallel paths around that, to sneak around,
Alright.
right? So
That's cool stuff. We'll leave it at that. I would encourage you guys, if you have more interest in this, there's a lot more detail in Alan's article on the site there, which is accurately titled "How 3D Crosspoint Phase Change Memory Works."
Yeah.
We had a big discussion about what the title of the story should be, and that's what we came up with. So maybe
My
we'll-
titles were great.
I forgot what your title was.
it was so good.
One thing
everybody
Intel
forgot.
doesn't want you to know about 3D
Oh,
crosspoint
yeah,
memory.
That's true. We
You'll
don't
never,
wanna,
you'll never believe.
you'll never believe what's inside Intel Crosspoint.
All right, before we get to the next story, quick shout out to Jordan Campo, who became a Patreon for $3 a month. Thank you, Jordan, for that, and for your tweet of the giant Ryzen Threadripper processor.
Oh, that was awesome.
All right, so we'll run through some of these other things pretty quick. Sebastian posted a review of the ECS
Which one is it?
You've been going through this for years now.
know.
Just pick one.
Leva Z review. It is a
Living in Vida Loca.
fanless, a fanless Apollo Lake mini PC. This is basically the Nook kind of sentimental integration here, but this is fairly low, not let me say low performance, but it's low performance, right? This is the Apollo Lake stuff. It's Pentium Celeron N4200 based, SODIMM memory, eMMC memory for storage, but there is an M.2 SATA expansion slot in it as well, so that's beneficial. You've got
Can you remember the last Apollo code name of a product?
code name of a product?
Yeah.
No.
No. Who was it from?
VIA.
That was a long time ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
they did
VIA
that.
Pentium 3 chipsets, the VIA Apollo Pro.
I was gonna say they did several of those, didn't they? Yeah.
They did lots.
Yeah.
Good old 4-in-1s.
They should sue.
So I mean, you can see this is that type. Same design idea as a Nook. It even comes with like the VESA mount plate in there, USB 3 on the front, including Type C, which let me look back here at the specs. I assume is just Gen 1. Yeah, USB 3.1 Gen 1. And the Type C is actually just 3.0. What's the difference between 3.1 Gen 1 and 3.0?
The
Type C?
ability to do power delivery in video.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I mean, this isn't doing power delivery, and it probably isn't doing video, but there is a
Over that-
difference
well,
in
there's-
theory.
On the back, you got mini DP, HDMI, and 2 Ethernet connections.
Two
and
Ethernet, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Why would
Trying
I?
to
Why
think
would I
of a
want
use
that?
for that. In a
Oh, gosh,
machine
yeah,
that's form
it
Big
sounds-
factor.
server with some really weird setups.
It's a set like it's a low power processor.
I know.
You're not gonna make it a server.
I don't know.
Hmm.
So you can
Router.
see,
Probably run,
VPN condenser.
they run Plex.
Sure, there you go.
you can run Plex as long as you don't ever do transcoding ever.
Midstream only.
Yeah.
Well, no, never.
So you can see the inside of it again, very Nook-like in its design, but seems to be pretty simple to get into. Sebastian did have to use a flathead screwdriver to get there. So this is the model we had was a Celeron N3350. That is a what is that? Is that a two-core two-thread SoC? Dual-core 1.1 gigahertz part. Boost clocks can reach twice that, so up to 2.2 gigahertz or so. And Sebastian does say he saw speeds above 2 gigahertz throughout most of his testing. So you can see there's not a whole lot of performance testing in this review. It is not meant for people who are really concerned about performance. But
It runs 4K. That's sort of
Yeah.
the performance.
yeah, but 4K video playback, right? Sebastian calls the performance adequate but not speedy. HTML5 video was generally smooth up to 1080p, but for websites and services that run on Flash, there were drop frames and choppy playback. Though the 4K video playback did not result in any watchable video, regardless of format or container. So not 4K playback. So this is the entry level of the Leva Z. So there may be some differences there. Then he did say one potential issue related to the streaming video exploits and exploits is the overhead required by the Intel wireless adapter itself, which is in typical desktop systems would be negligible. Here, on the other hand, even during a simple file download with only one tab open in Google Chrome, there was a 90% CPU utilization
That's a bit rough.
during a high-speed download.
Oh,
So-
during it down. So the neck was
Yeah, it was the Wi-Fi card kind of doing any of that. So
It was
obviously that would
offloading.
Sorry,
Doing-
no Bitcoin on this one.
it would be very minimal, long-term payoff on this one for sure.
couple of years.
Storage not incredibly great on the eMMC.
No, eMMC is the devil.
Yeah, actually, so this is
that's not bad.
it's not awful.
eMMC tends to look okay.
But the problem
with
is the low on the low side, like the 512 byte is 823. Is that bytes per second?
yeah.
That's pretty low.
And the thing that Addo doesn't really show you very well is eMMC is generally very stuttery, especially on writes. So
Okay.
you'll have if you're doing some kind of small random write, like a registry update needs to be paid out to disk or something.
Yeah.
While that's going on, A, it's very slow, and B, all of the reads are halted as well.
Okay.
It's just it just freezes usually.
Yeah.
The controllers don't really multitask very well at all.
So this is a $199 device though. So that's not too bad.
The chat was mentioning you could run pfSense on it, which would be good for two NICs.
What? Did
pfSense?
you? I mentioned that the very first when. Anyway.
I'm sorry, is Josh talking? I can't really, do we have another
No,
guy on this
nobody cares.
podcast?
No.
No.
Yeah, because no one
matter.
ever talks over each other on this podcast, so you
So, I
definitely
mean-
hear everything. Josh.
I mean, $200.
What are you talking about?
$200 is not. It's not
$200
bad for a
is not
little-
bad. It's
little
not bad.
box with 200. For $200.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't come with an OS, right? Does it? Actually, I guess I don't know. Let me see.
Does it come with the RAM?
It may
no,
come.
right? So you have to add RAM, I think.
Yes, correct. It is.
And you have to add the SSD.
Back one more page. Let me check.
we don't have to add an SSD.
Let's see OS.
It has
does have
eMMC.
onboard
See
storage.
OS.
Yeah.
But
Say again, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I see OS support as Ubuntu and Windows, but it
Yeah.
doesn't say it comes.
Yeah, not
so
surprising.
Probably not.
Not surprising. So check out that review if you are interested in little tiny mini pocket PCs that attach to the back of your display, I guess. And then Jim, who hides in the back of the office here, posted a review of the Logitech G4 13 mechanical gaming keyboard. This is an interesting design in that it is not RGB, so you're talking about lower cost right out of the gate. And the low cost is kind of the target for this, right? They wanted to build a mechanical keyboard for the gaming audience. It had some design changes as well as kind of a low cost, right? So you can kind of see the brushed metal finish. Yeah, this is probably a better picture to look at. It's kind of the brushed metal finish of the design. It is red backlit. You can turn it on and off, adjust your brightness there. It uses their Romer G mechanical switches. So that is going to be different than, Cherry designs abound. And Jim and I kind of talked about this a little bit while he was doing the review, that it's very much a kind of a personal preference thing. I really, really like the Romer G switches. I even do a lot of writing on it. Jim happens to prefer a little bit more of the clicky tactileness of the different Cherry. What Cherry switches do you have on your keyboard that you like the best, Jim? What are blues. He's a cherry blue guy. So if you know you're a cherry blue person, probably the G413, like the Romer G, is not going to be a good match for that. But for getting into mechanical keyboards, it's got the USB pass-through. It's a $90 keyboard for a full size. It's not a 10 keyless design or anything like that. You know, some people may see that as a positive or a negative, really, depending on what you're looking for. The software, I actually think the Logitech gaming software is actually pretty good. It's been the same for a long time. They haven't made any drastic adjustments, but the software in terms of, you know, there's not really any RGB controls here because it's a static or single LED color, but the software works well. It's not, you know, overbearing in terms of always asking for your attention or updates or anything like that, but it does allow you for brightness controls, effect controls, that type of stuff through this keyboard. I think this is a good thing to see mechanical keyboards, you know, less than $3,000 or so.
Yeah.
Right. So an $89 Logitech G413 makes a lot of sense.
And it's still backlit. It's just not individually or RGB backlit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine for a lot of people.
You
just want backlighting.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I've had that Logitech G910 for a long time with RGB. I don't
Never
really
mess
care
with
what
the
color
backlight.
it is.
Yeah.
I don't like. It's like, well, blue matches the color of the logo, so I'll go with blue.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I've never done individual like anything color for
and
any
everybody
reason,
has
and-
preferences, but yes, 100.
When I had an
100% with
RGB
you.
keyboard at my desk at the office, it was a cycling rainbow
You
all
had the
the
rainbow
time.
all the time.
and
yeah,
he
that's
was
true.
so happy all day long, all the days.
Why would you not
No.
if you can do it?
And it was the early days
So
of
let me list the reasons.
yeah. It was the early days of that software, so we knew when the software crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
The
we
rainbow's
reset.
the rainbow's not cycling. What? Something's wrong.
And then also from Sebastian, real quick, we'll mention here the Google Pixel review is up. Now, I will absolutely admit that the phone is a little bit old, but we wanted to have a review here. We wanted to get Sebastian back ramped up on some of the phone side of stuff because we have some other ones coming up in the very near future that are going to need to be reviewed with newer SoCs and newer platforms and whatnot.
And I mean, like, it's still Google's flagship phone.
It is, and it's incredibly difficult to find, correct?
Yeah, it's out of stock pretty often from Google.
Yeah. So this is the Pixel, not the Pixel XL. It's still got the same hardware interior inside of it. Essentially, Qualcomm Snapdragon 821. The smaller version has a 1080p 5-inch screen. So your Snapdragon 821 is it's a big little-ish kind of design. 2 big cores running it up to 2.15, 2 little cores at 1.6 gigahertz Adreno 530, 4 gigs of RAM, 32 and 128 gig options. Weighted to 11 AC, the Snapdragon X12 modem, all that good stuff. These are still impressive phones if you can find them, both in terms of performance, features, capability. Look at this wonderful Chipworks breakdown of the Pentile display.
If there's one thing that triggers Sebastian, it's Pentile displays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not square.
Gets him excited.
Wait, is this triggers good, triggers bad?
Bad.
Oh, okay.
Bad
Yeah,
trigger.
he
But
doesn't
it's,
like
but
it.
it's nice aliasing going on in there.
Yes, there is. So, and actually, he's got some good pictures in here of close-ups of what the text looks like and what the effects of a Pentile display actually are. It looks at camera quality, audio performance. That's a pretty good picture.
Takes a good picture.
It does.
The autofocus on those Pixel cameras is fantastic. They have a
Like, in
laser
terms of speed?
autofocus system. It's
Like instant focus.
yeah, you can barely notice it focusing ever.
Yeah.
They're awesome at that.
That's cool.
Of course, we have performance benchmarks in here as well. He does some benchmarks comparing it to the iPhone 7, the Huawei Mate 9, some of the more flagship phones there that we have tested recently. It's kind of interesting, right? Because we've been focusing a lot on stuff like the Snapdragon 835, whereas there's only a couple of phones, the Samsung Galaxy 8, S8,
Mhm.
and Plus in the US use the
Yeah.
Snapdragon phone, the Snapdragon 835, and then there was a Sony announced. There's been a couple announcements, but the 821's no slacker there. It still performs really well. Battery life seems decent, and overall, he really liked the phone. It's just you got to find it, and it may be too late to really spend your time unless you can find a good deal on it. because the idea of a Pixel 2 coming or some kind of iterative design increase on this.
The rumor is they're
Could be
gonna like launch 2 or 3 separate Pixel phones this year.
Oh, really?
They're gonna have sort of a actual lineup instead of just one option and the bigger screen option.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And
a
it-
low end one and a.
And as nickname points out in the chat, the real key to getting a Pixel device is your OS updates are frequent. You know that they're released by Google, right? So you don't have to worry about waiting for Samsung to release an update or LG to release an update or Verizon to approve something or whatever it happens to be. That's the biggest
Well,
reason to get a Nexus device.
Don't buy a Verizon Pixel then.
Really? They hold them back? They can't update from the
I don't.
OTA pushes?
I could be wrong on this, but I don't think Google has direct ability to push the updates. I think they make Verizon approve them very quickly,
Yeah.
and also you can't unlock the bootloader on the Verizon phone, so you like can't install
I hate that
the
these
beta
questions
version
still
of
exist.
Android on it. Which, if you're buying a Pixel, you probably might want to do at some point.
Right.
Well, they're about the only one in the US that still does that.
I don't know.
AT&T
Um,
and T-Mobile you can usually force.
AT&T would,
I think AT&T might
would be
still.
the only one I would think would do it, but yeah, no idea.
I was reading that the Android guys are supposed to be working on some kind of an API thing where you would have the base version of the OS that would get approved, like blanketly across FCC or whatnot, and then there would be like the carrier-specific little additions or whatever. Or if they want their GUI or they want whatever other stuff, would like reference that API, like a
Right.
common API. So that way, they're trying to make it so that the Android updates can be, adopted way more quickly. In other words, you wouldn't need an
It has to
approval.
happen. It
Right.
has to happen.
Yeah, the whole goal was to be so that they could just, okay, here's the new version, and everybody should just be able to like update to it, and the carrier guys there wouldn't have to be a cause for a delay from any of the carriers. It'd just be
Gotcha.
like, we put our package on top of that, boom, and it just like works, supposedly, like in theory. But
Right.
really good idea. I hope it happens because
Should have happened 5 years ago.
it really, yeah, they need all the help they can get on like trying to get their rollout percentage, when Apple's able to put up a slide at WWDC with
Oh
like
god, they love doing that.
they
so
love
much.
doing that. It's like what 5 or 7% this time. Android users on the current version versus like,
It's
You
it's
know,
it's, it's the
95% of
biggest
iOS
legitimate
users.
Yeah.
complaint for Android.
and it's not
For
for
sure.
like it's not for lack of like motivation of the users to update. It's just they just
Well,
don't
there's
have
probably
the
a lot
update.
of that too, but yeah, I mean it's
They don't
it's
have the
one-
ability to.
So
Yeah.
I was reading an editorial on the way back home today about like Apple making their AR VR announcements and how once that drops, they will almost immediately become the largest. They will immediately become the largest market for AR and VR.
Mhm.
Period.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets iPhone, iOS updates. Everybody has those capabilities. Whereas for Android, even though they've been pushing VR for much longer,
Mhm.
the number of phones that support Daydream is
Next to
minimal.
none.
Yeah.
Right. North Ranger in the chat says it's Project Treble.
Treble.
Yeah, that's what that's called, Project Treble.
I hope they can do that. I had a discussion with somebody this week actually where I said, you know what, Google just needs to buy Qualcomm or they need to merge or something and create that direct competitor because then you don't have this issue anymore.
It
Yeah.
still wouldn't help.
I think it
Well-
would. If Google really took one and said, okay, if you guys, and basically they had the ability to create pixels and they dedicated themselves to like doing the phone.
They would
And they
never
say,
do
hey,
it.
everybody else, if you want to be involved in this, that's fine, but you have to agree to these OS restrictions. And if they don't, they go,
Yeah.
we have this. Or just honestly, even just putting slightly more emphasis on the Pixel program and
Yeah.
making sure they're available and they're not $900 and pushing it in the way that Apple pushes iPhone. I think you start to force the hands of the other phone handset makers to catch up. I don't know.
Yeah.
One day we'll see. So anyway, Sebastian's Pixel review, Google Pixel review is up on the website. So now as it turns out, Computex still happened after last week.
A little bit.
So we're going to go through some of this stuff, and you guys tell me if any of it is interesting enough to dissect. Gigabyte shows X299 motherboard lineup.
Let's take a look.
Is that gold, or is that
Let's-
just a lighting reflection? That's lighting reflection. Okay, on this picture. On here. It looks like the slots and everything, and even the socket kind of have a gold
Ugh.
tinge. But
Is that the reflection?
LEDs.
Roll down and they're purple.
oof, man, Jeremy, your audio.
They're purple.
Man, I don't know what is
Yeah.
happening on our end or yours, but
Oh yeah, you always scroll
It's
down.
on
They're purple
mine.
there. Let's go next picture. There you go.
Oh,
Now they're
okay,
purple instead of
okay.
gold.
Yeah. Ooh. So I guess it's not really a secret. I saw this motherboard this week, and I like both this and the Asus board where they have these LEDs kind of like behind glass / plexiglass plastic fascia type stuff. Actually looks better than just having the LEDs illuminating randomness on the board, and it's actually, I think, a little bit better styling.
Look at this way overpowered water cooling. Look at the size of
There's
the motherboard.
not even a GPU in there.
Those are like 1-inch diameter tubing to like a pair of God knows what size rads those are.
There's a GPU in there.
Where? Oh, down there. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
on
yeah.
a ribbon cable.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on the ribbon.
yeah,
It's on the
okay.
ribbon. But look at the coolers
see
and
it.
like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, that's insane.
It blended
Give
in
me
with
the
background.
biggest tubing you have.
Yeah,
3
basically.
inches. What? No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
that's too big.
Somebody should have said that.
Never too big.
So there's that. We're going to see a lot more X299 in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. This one's interesting. How about this? Speaking of cryptocurrency mining, how about an 13 PCI Express slot motherboard?
Why'd they put the 1x16 on there?
You know,
Because
Well,
Just because, in case you want a game on it?
graphics card. Yeah, if you do other things with the PC, which you don't buy this motherboard if that's the case, but if you do other things with the PC, I see that. Like, maybe after Bitcoin crashes again and you turn out you wasted a bunch of money and time, you can still use this motherboard to build a regular system with if you want.
yeah.
This is the ASRock H110 Pro BTC Plus.
This is when you know Bitcoin is starting
Holy
to.
moly!
I was going to say they've missed a marketing
Yeah.
gold line here.
Yeah.
Well, I think
H
it was
110 Pro.
We can just call it that, the bitch plus. If you want to.
Exactly.
I mean,
Bitch
the
plus.
plus kind of looks like an H even, right? So it's,
yeah, yeah.
So,
ASRock did this before
So this
when
is
Bitcoin was
interesting.
popular last.
oh, did they?
Yeah,
So
it
the-
wasn't quite 13, I don't think, but
It's interesting because like those PCI Express slots are not meant to hold anything else other than ribbon cable expanders.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Wait,
they don't
no.
match up with anything on the
No,
back
no,
of the
there's
case.
cards that are-
cut to it.
Yeah. That's a what?
Oh, we almost got
so
it.
they don't match anything on the back of the case, but they have the backs cut out so you can put a by 16 card in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Except for that one where the
So
Except
if,
for the
you,
CMOS
if you had
battery is.
single slot cards, you could absolutely just put 13 cards in
Yeah.
there.
Single
know what?
slot.
They-
But they wouldn't fit. Like I'm
with-
saying,
with
like
water
this,
loss.
like the Z height. Like there's no way.
What?
Like
no.
No.
put a
Yeah, I
couple
guess
of
that's not a
PCIe
full slot.
SSDs in between it.
Oh, are those not standard?
No, no.
storage.
No,
you can't.
that
No,
wouldn't
there's no
work.
way. Yeah. Like those
Okay.
are so close you couldn't fit a single slot anything in there. And
Okay.
you could do that if you skipped every other one, but then you don't even know which ones match up with the back panel of the case.
It might be every
None
other
of them
one.
do, probably.
It's maybe every third one does or something like that, but it actually skips every 2 spots in the chassis. Jeremy, you were going to say something?
That's so funny.
I was going to say
I've got a big problem with this.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
go for it. I was going to say. you
Okay,
can
I got a
fit
big
single
problem.
slot SSDs.
Damn it.
Oh my God.
Hey, Jeremy, go.
No.
Already cut to you, Jeremy. You got to go.
All right, fine. Put single slot SSDs in between the cards so you get a little bit extra space and run that storage thing, the distributed file system that pays you. Twice the income.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, there's a distributed file system that pays you now?
Yeah,
too?
there
Yeah,
is. Tim
don't.
used to do
It's-
it. It doesn't, it's kind of not worth it.
It
Is this how the
You'll
cloud
make
works?
a buck over 10 years.
Is this
You
how
get-
the
you
cloud
get
works? I
paid,
don't know.
you get paid based on how much is actually being stored on your...
You say I have 2 terabytes
No,
on my
that's not a real
computer to
thing.
dedicate to people putting God knows what on there.
Yeah, Storj.
Oh my God.
STORJ.
All right, Josh, you were going to say something?
You know what? If you look at that picture,
I'm
if you
looking.
Put that back up. Look at all that empty space. Look at it.
What, like here?
And they decide to put the
Yeah.
BIOS battery right underneath
Yeah.
the PCI 16 slot.
Yeah, Maury would
Maury
not
looks
approve
at
of
this
it.
and
That's for
he
Maury.
goes straight. He goes straight to the bathroom and throws up.
So, I
Shit,
mean,
they could have put to the left of the PCIe by 1 slots.
yeah, they could have put it
You
over here.
animals, he says.
It's got two DIMM slots is all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somebody was asking in the chat what the Molex connector was for. right
because
above
you're not
these.
going to provide 75 watts to 13 GPUs
Well,
off
even-
the regular
No, it's-
power rating of a
Yeah, that's true.
motherboard.
It's got Intel Gigabit Ethernet. There's that. I don't think we don't have a particular news story on it, but it's worth noting that like there was the rumor going around of NVIDIA and AMD making Bitcoin like mining specific graphics cards and what that would look like. And this is an idea of what design changes. If you were going to make a graphics card specific for that, you would put as many GPUs on it as possible. Actually, we had this debate. Like, I don't know what you would change on a GPU because you want maximum performance out of that part. For the motherboard, you don't care about performance. You don't care about like the amount of data and information transferring back and forth is incredibly small.
Well, in theory, if you put many smaller GPUs onto a single board, it would help you cram them in. Like if you put a PLX chip and
So if they had
2 to 4
four
GPUs.
Polaris GPUs on a board.
in theory,
But
Yeah.
now you're making so much heat that like cooling-
fans, bigger fans,
Yeah.
box fans,
or water blocks.
Yeah.
Water blocks are too expensive.
My guess would be for the rumors of them making currency mining specific GPUs or cards, it's probably all wrong because by the time they develop something and get it out there, the chances of this being as big of a deal is minimal. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week when we actually talk about that particular story. But anybody have any interest in the Lian Li raw copper radiators?
It looks awesome.
It does kind of look
It's
pretty
pretty.
good. Not gonna lie. Is there a benefit? Like, is there a thermal benefit to having these? From this? Anything? Nobody?
I mean, maybe a fuzz, but is that clear coated or?
Oh no, that's gonna oxidize.
Yeah, it's gonna oxidize.
You think so?
Oh, it'll turn. green.
Yeah.
Slowly.
That was my concern. It's going to turn dark like really quick. It'll still work.
Yeah.
It's just,
It won't change the thermal properties of it any if it oxidizes.
copper oxide.
It looks steampunk as hell.
it does look steampunk.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's still going to transfer heat pretty well. I don't think the surface oxide really affects it that
Tim
much.
points out like it's a nice aesthetic touch, but once it's installed in your case and sitting behind fans, it's
That's true.
less noticeable
Yeah.
of a
Depends
cool
on
effect.
if you have.
You
If
need
you only have fans on the top, then
Yeah, you need like clear white LED backlit fans or something, and
So that was also there. I do agree it looks cool. But it's from Lian Li, so my guess is going to be extremely expensive.
yeah.
that's a lot of copper.
If I were just to guess on this one. And then moving past X299 because that's old school news. Let's move on to the X399. This was, I don't know if we mentioned this last week on the show, but there were Threadripper motherboards being on display. Asus showed off the ROG Zenith Extreme X399, which is this bad boy here. Let me see if I can click on it and see if we have a slightly. Ooh,
Zoom into
there we
that
go.
socket.
Look at
Oh
that
yeah, look at that
socket.
socket.
Oh my
It's
lord!
not quite a dim in length, but it's damn close.
My God, you're right. It is. The whole socket's almost
bigger
as
than
big
a
as the
SODIMM.
DIMM slot. So,
You could make really nice sized pancakes on that.
Yeah.
so there's
I see a
no
test in the
lever. There's no lever on this. Ken was adamant to point out that you basically put the bracket down on top of it and screw it in.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there's three.
There's three hex screws, and apparently the open is 3, 2, 1. I don't know. Close 1, 2, 3. Is that the order in which you're supposed to apply?
I
put
think
the
Yeah,
so.
if you
screws in?
notice that top screw, there's
One.
a 1 to it.
Yeah,
And there's
It's like
two
one bolt.
here, 3.
3.
Interesting.
That's weird.
It's a little weird. So I wonder when you get a socket that size, so you can't really change, we can't rotate the orientation 90 degrees because then you don't have room for DIMM slots or power delivery. There's this riser card here, which is probably the Asus DIMM.2,
Yeah, it looks
Right?
like it.
Yeah.
which is meant to hold M.2 slots. Get it, guys? Get it?
Yeah.
But when you get to this length, like if you want to have a top PCI Express slot that starts just below the back panel,
Your
connectors,
cooler's going to be running into it.
your cooler's going to have an issues with it, and then you also have like how much space up top is there for power delivery, right? Like it looks like there's 8 phases up here, but when you're talking about a potentially 160 plus watt TDP processor, that's power delivery is more important than ever, I would posit.
Hey,
right?
the X79 and X99 boards have had the same issues, and they were what 140 watt TDP parts.
Yeah, they peaked at 140. Yeah.
yeah. So,
So, I mean,
I think
both-
that there's enough design experience in there that
Sure.
they're probably going to be fine.
I think the moral of the story here is get an AIO.
My understanding, I'm thinking that will be. Let's see, what was the TDP of that processor that AMD released where they required a water cooler? 220, wasn't it?
I think so.
Was it
9350?
It was the
It's
the
the
8 core
9350,
4 gigahertz. Yeah,
60, whatever. Yeah.
and it was over 200 watts. It required a water cooler. We're getting pretty close to that up here. I know Intel talked about having like their Xeons already go up to 165.
Yeah.
So we assume Core i9 will be at least that.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I wouldn't expect this to require a water cooler, but like you said, like if you want to use that top PCIe slot, you have to use a water block. Pretty much.
Well, no, the
Like,
secret is that
an air
all of
cooler's
the
not going to fit
coolers-
there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but all the air coolers have heat pipes at least 100 millimeters long, so they don't start till about 4 inches off the board. That's when it spreads out into the heatsink.
Yeah, you're going to run into like
That way you can fit
DIMM
everything.
slot interference, PCI Express
Oh, no,
slot
it's so high up.
interference.
It's so high up. You've got 4 inches of clearance before the cooler starts, so you can fit everything in there.
Probably not your video card though.
And they've showed like the pseudo die shots of that, and the CCXs are arranged in like a grid pattern, so like you have to get to the edge of the heat spreader still.
So Threadripper should only have 2.
Sure, but they're not
DIMMs,
both in the
or
middle.
2 dies.
They're spread out.
Yeah.
So like you can't just put a smaller cold plate on the
Yeah.
in the middle.
Right,
You have
right,
to
right.
cover the entire area of the heat spreader.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, yes. You should do that. So anyway, we'll know more about the X399 soon as well, although I don't really know what the specifics are on dating on that stuff. And then ASRock showed X399 motherboards as well. And actually, and for some reason in this picture, it even looks more relatively massive. I don't know why, but geez, Pete's.
They have more clearance to the first PCIe slot.
They do, and I wonder. So that also could mean that they're not utilizing the. Well, no, it is still directly below the external connectivity options here. But
It looked like the Asus had a heat pipe over their power distribution on top of it, and it scooted it down by a couple millimeters.
yeah, and this is also 8 phases up here, up top. So I don't know. It'll be curious to see.
I think ASRock announced a board with 10G on board, an X399 board with 10 gigabit.
Good.
Which is cool.
You can use some of those PCI Express lanes
Yeah,
with that for
exactly.
sure. How many
Yeah,
PCI
the
Express lanes
professional
do you
gaming.
need to fully 10 gig? Two lanes of PCIe?
I think they usually
3?
buy 4 cards, but I think they usually have 2 ports, right?
Yeah, that's something. I think
10
you
gigabit.
only need 2
You need at
lanes
least
to
a
really
couple.
to fully saturate that. But no
Yeah.
word on what the pricing is going to be on these. I'm very curious to see like what the X399 platform will be compared to like X299 platform in terms of cost and feature set. Because
Yeah.
Intel's, the board partners have a lot of experience on the Intel side. They're all kind of starting from scratch here on the AMD side. But will they be able to? How much of that experience building X99 and X299 will they be able to take over to the AMD side? Interesting to see. Apple had an event, and they announced.
A 2.5 hour long event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like Jensen style. Like
And-
that's way longer.
And they
actually,
didn't
but,
like talk
They didn't
about
talk
like,
about cars.
Yeah,
they didn't talk
and
about cars.
they weren't taking their time.
They
like,
were
it wasn't-
cranking
yeah.
through.
So I
Yeah.
didn't get to watch it, but I talked to somebody who was there, and they mentioned that like there was a lot of stuff. They didn't linger
Yeah.
Right.
on anything particularly long
on
because they
any
did their
single thing.
OS and they did their stupid
They did-
speaker and they did.
It was easy to tell, like the first or second person that was up there talking were like speed talking,
Yeah,
like they were intentionally like just talking quickly. So
I like I said, I didn't watch it, but I can only imagine that the spiel for the speaker was, "Do you love Siri?" Then
No.
oh,
It was the opposite. It was you want good sound, and oh hey, it also has Siri in it. Like they're not pitching it as Siri first; they're pitching it as a speaker first. iPod Hi-Fi 2.0.
yeah.
Same price.
So they announced a updated MacBook line. Is this correct? So what changed in this, Ken?
I mean, you could call it an updated MacBook line, I guess. So
it feels like when did they do the?
it was like 8 months ago.
the Skylake was fairly recently. Okay,
Yeah.
8 months ago. Okay.
So if you scroll down to the chart,
the tablet.
essentially at least in the MacBook Pro line, if you just took last year's chart and you replaced the 6 after the processor, the 6 in the first of the processor, and changed it to a 7, there you go.
Yeah, and then they added like
Really?
one model or something. Didn't they add one more in the middle or something? No.
They reduced the price of the MacBook Pro 13-inch without function keys by $100.
Oh yeah.
But they also introduced the 128 gig option at the low end instead of 256. So
Oh,
they didn't really lower the price. There's a lower entry, but it's 128 gig SSD.
That's crap.
Yeah.
That's
so I mean, I assume these are slightly higher clocks.
It's
as
200
well.
megahertz across the board.
Okay. So the move from Skylake to Kaby Lake gets you a little bit more performance. Did they change any of their battery life claims or anything like that?
You know what? I didn't actually look at it. Graphics on the MacBook Pro 15-inch actually get a decent bump. Where they started with the Radeon Pro 450 in the base before, it's now the 555, and the 560 is the upgrade option. They had 3 SKUs before. So
These parts don't exist for anybody except Apple, by the way.
yeah.
So take that for what you will.
Mm.
Any other surprises, benefits, plus, negatives, anything like that with these updates on the MacBooks?
No 32 gigs of RAM still. That was rumored that they were going to offer that option.
Yeah, okay.
Apple's excuse is they can't do it with DDR3L, and they're using DDR3L instead of DDR4 because of battery life. That's their excuse.
For battery life, they claim.
Mhm.
I would have thought DDR4, LP DDR4 would have been lower power draw than LP DDR3.
Well, it's not LP DDR4. It's DDR4.
Yeah.
On those platforms. I don't think there is a DDR4L.
I think there is. Maybe not. I don't know. Interesting.
The next item was the interesting hardware thing from this event.
Yes, the new iMac. As Jim writes, one giant leap for the iMac Pro.
Hey, there's going to be an iMac Pro.
So basically the new iMacs, the iMac Pro was just higher performance components, essentially. Is that right? So
Yeah, by a long shot.
5K 27-inch Radeon Pro 5 up to a Radeon Pro 580, which I assume is just an RX 580 rebranded.
Oh no, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the normal iMac. Okay, so the standard iMac is 5K 27-inch up to Radeon Pro 580, which I assume is an RX 580. Okay.
Except
that's-
that Apple can't release these yet because they can't get enough RX 580s.
I'm gonna buy all these iMacs.
They
too.
actually literally
to
announced
Bitcoin mine.
a product with an RX 580 in it because they announced their external Thunderbolt GPU development kit so people can develop VR applications on Macs which don't have
Is that
VR.
what those giant ugly black boxes were?
Yep.
That I saw pictures of next to MacBooks?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're officially supporting external graphics in OS 10 now, or Mac OS,
okay.
Mac OS now, and they're shipping them the developer kits with 580s.
And they're all gonna start mining.
So, okay, so VR optimized. So they also announced support for VR. And it looks like they've taken some of the things that NVIDIA and AMD have been working on, improving the display pipeline, viewport arrays, system tracing, GPU queue priority, debugging for stereoscopic visualization. All those things make sense. It's supported for the HTC Vive is where it starts at, right?
Yeah, no mention of Oculus.
So the iMacs start at $1099 for 21-inch, go up to $1799 as a starting price for the 5K. That's not so bad.
Yeah, I think that's a
For a
price
5K
reduction,
screen.
Jim, right?
Seven,
On the low end, it's a
the
reduction.
$1099 is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just the idea of a 5K display.
It's $1,000 alone.
Yeah. And so
It's a
it
very nice
seems
looking
it seems
display.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah. The iMac Pro is interesting. Is it the same size as the iMac, like depth-wise, or is it a
We
little bit
I think it's a
thicker?
little bit
No.
more guppy-ish in the center. Like it's.
'Cause they had this profile shot.
It's
and I didn't have a
redesigned.
profile
It's
of it.
not the same
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be
No, it's not.
because
It's got the twin
it's got
blowers like that.
up to an 18-core Xeon
Xeon,
processor in it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's going to use Vega.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it has
So-
like a vent out the center
so
of the
let me-
back.
Yeah. As the iMac, they touted the iMac Pro as the same great design as the iMac. Okay.
It's like
I
but
mean,
it's
the
like
same
the
ID.
it's like the outside design, basically.
So is the iMac Pro not available at all until December, or is it only available with the 18 core later in December? Okay, not at all till December. It's the idea that they could put an 18 core Xeon which is probably 180 watt TDP,
Uh-huh.
and a Vega GPU, which is probably a 200 to 250 watt TDP, depending on
Yep.
what performance level they go with, into an all-in-one that looks like that
Yeah,
is damn impressive.
it is.
Unless it sounds like a freight train or something, which I can't imagine Apple would do. Right? That's not really their MO.
I mean, it had like vents along the bottom edge or like just above the bottom.
they
in the
show
back,
this
which you can't see
picture-
in that picture, but
I mean,
in
if you see the blue is the cooling,
right,
and
then you
the
see
hot is the expelled.
So there's
I mean-
actually vents out the center of the back,
yeah.
right? So
For as expensive as it was and as upgraded as it never got, like the Mac Pro had the new Mac
trash can?
Pro, the trash,
trash
can,
can.
has very hot components in a very small space.
And it wasn't loud, and it was a well-designed
Yeah.
piece of hardware.
I
It
would
was
absolutely expect this to be that.
yeah, I would too. It starts at $49.99.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not with an 18 core processor.
It's
That is with the 8 core. Yeah, starts at 8 core.
1 terabyte flash SSD. I don't remember the RAM
10 gig Ethernet, 4
Oh, yeah,
USB
yeah.
3 /
10 gig
Thunderbolt 3
Ethernet built
ports.
and Vega in there.
Even-
with
even
the
in the
5K
base?
display. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vega in all of them.
Okay.
$5,000 actually isn't too bad. I bet once the X299 platform and Vega come out, I think if you build a PC, you're going to be in that neighborhood.
So
it's
I mean,
probably
we're-
going to be
we-
$1,000 more expensive, but for the Apple tax,
we already know that the 18 core part is $2,000.
well, we're not talking about the 18 core. We're talking about the 8 core.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So the 8 core, the 8 core,
I built a current
Core
X99 8 core machine,
yeah,
and it was like $4,500.
Well, the other thing too is that
that's
it's confusing.
yeah,
launching the
yeah.
i9s,
But I mean, and realistically, there's no difference, right? And if anything, usually the 8 core parts on the Core i7 line would be higher clock than the Xeon parts, right? So yeah, because the 8 core processor in the Core i7 family is $599.
the 18 core Xeon is 145 watt TDP, which is why it might work better in there.
Well, yeah, the Xeon is running a lower clock speed than the Core i9
Yeah.
part.
So that's how
would
they
be.
can get away
Yeah.
with some of the thermals.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a 30 watt delta that you just
Yeah.
brought up,
Yeah.
20 watt delta.
Now, the 18 core, I expect to be $20,000 or something stupid like that. Like, they're going to absolutely kill you on that one. But
$5,000. So the 5K display, which you can get in a $1799 regular iMac,
Mhm.
right?
you can buy the 5K display for
I'm just trying to
it's like
figure out
$1,200 bucks, I think, $1,200 maybe.
for $499 starts with a 1 terabyte
Yeah.
Yeah.
drive, NVMe flash.
Yeah.
It will have some version of Vega, but they're not talking specifics yet, so we don't know if it's the same Vega across all the Mac
they only
Pros.
said like Vega up to 16 gigs of memory, I think, or maybe up to 30. I don't remember.
It'll be
and then
16
one of
exactly
those,
what it was.
at least in the video,
Yeah, they did say 11 teraflops.
Yes.
it actually looked like you could upgrade the RAM in this one.
You can't. They said today you can't.
Really?
Mhm.
The graphic sure looked like
yeah,
it was.
this graphic looks like you would be able to.
There's
like-
like dims.
And there's-
It's not user accessible.
Yeah, there's no door to get to it. Like
Oh, sure, there's no
regular
door,
Everything's
but-
user accessible.
Yeah,
if
but then you
try
have to
hard
take the
enough.
glass off the front panel with
It's
suction
magnetic.
cups.
Oh, it's
Jim
glued?
says it's glued.
How do you
and
know that?
you get dust behind it. Like,
Yeah.
It's not friendly. So it's just like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
it's
I
odd.
don't know. It seems more expensive than it should be, but you're saying it seems relatively close. So maybe there's truth to it. It also is interesting because it's putting it in December, which is a long ways away, guys.
Yeah,
that's 6 months from
They
now.
announced a bunch of products that'll be available in December.
What else?
That speaker,
The
that super
speaker.
speaker.
I mean, is there going to be another keynote like before that?
Yeah, they're supposed to be.
They'll announce iPhones and probably
Yeah.
a watch.
It's like,
but
hey, all that stuff we talked about 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Yeah, we're doing that. Oh, and by the way, iPhone.
All right. So that's the
Well,
iMac
thank you for
stuff.
pre-ordering.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for all those pre-orders.
All right, we've got a long list of stuff here on the left side of the screen, so I'm going to go through these quick. Plex.
Uh-huh.
You love it? Probably, if you know what it is. They launched support for live TV, meaning if you have a Plex server that is today has to be either Android TV / NVIDIA Shield / Windows / Mac /
Linux, probably.
Yeah, there was another one. There was another platform that was supported.
No.
That was it for the server side. So if you have on the Plex server, and if you have a USB or a USB TV tuner or a HD home run, kind of like network-based TV tuner, now Plex will not just Plex could previously like record shows off of the live TV, off of like tuners like that.
Yeah.
But you couldn't watch them until the show was done recording. Right now they've integrated it so that the software you can actually watch live TV, adjust programming, do the DVR recording, all
So
type of
like,
stuff.
like a full blown DVR.
Yeah. And it's actually really cool to see it all integrated because now on the player side, like on your phone, you can watch live TV as well. Like, and it passes it through the same Plex system of transcoding and doing all that type of stuff. And it works really well. For viewing, it only supports iOS and Android TV today in terms of like specific platforms, but they're going to roll it out to regular Android devices, I think within the month as well. So, and that is something that is offered to Plex Pass subscribers. But if you have a big Plex library, if you're used to using Plex, it's nice to see that integrated into the
Can
same
you view on
software
a desktop?
package.
You didn't say desktop.
I
I don't think you can view it on
don't
desktop.
think you can view it on
Really?
You cannot.
I don't think you can yet.
Yeah, I don't think you
can't
can.
yet.
You
That's
can. It
annoying.
can be a server,
But it can't be the
but
client.
it can't be the client yet.
Huh.
But once a show's recorded, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
Because then that's the cool part to me is when it's
even
recorded,
once you
it
start
becomes,
the recording, I think you can because that's how the DVR used to work.
No, the DVR used to work. It had to be finished
Had to be
recording.
done.
No, it didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Because all the
if
stuff
you
in there
had
said
like
that it did.
if you had like the first 15 minutes recorded and it was a half-hour show and you started watching the show, it would catch up with when they had just the DVR functionality. Like you could start watching the recording before it was done,
Okay.
and if the recording finished, like was over by the time that you got to the end of the file, it would be fine.
So like a regular DVR.
Well, if you're fast forwarding through
Commercials.
commercials or whatnot. Yeah. So there's that. And also along with that, Shield TV had an update to 5.2, where I think that's rolling out, I guess, that adds support for Plex TV.
Yeah, it's currently in the beta channel right
Okay.
now. I just got the beta update the other day.
So it added support for more USB tuners to kind of support this live TV feature, but those tuners will also work like in Google Channels, for example. And then it also, here's the list of tuners that it does support: some HD home runs, Hauppauge, and single USB tuners, not recommended due to single tuner capabilities. But it also upgraded to allow writing to network storage. Before, it could only read from network storage. So if you had a big array of content, you could stream in to your thing, but now it can record out to it. So if you're recording TV on a DVR or whatever, now you can actually utilize the network attached
And
storage. for
it,
that
it was
specific
annoying
stuff.
because if you want to host your Plex library, you want your Plex server to be the Shield, which is always on and hooked up to your TV,
Right.
but you want the storage to be on your NAS with a bunch of storage, you still had to have local storage on the Shield to build the like media cache, the database.
Right.
So you'd have to plug in a hard drive to your Shield to get it to serve media on the NAS. So now you don't have to do that anymore, which makes sense.
Very cool. So we'll be talking about that more in the near term future as well. Imagination, Power VR, ray tracing. Scott wrote this up. There was a demo that was done using UE Force Vulkan renderer. Okay. So that's kind of an interesting application or interesting newsworthy item here that it is using UE for Vulkan. It's two major advantages of ray tracing images. Scott walks through this. Rather than applying baked cube map, simulates metallic objects. Second advantage is arbitrary lens effects. Basically that was a demo from GDC in 2017. They just released the videos of those. So if you're interested in that, Imagination would like your support, I think, now after all the Apple stuff. So keep that in mind. Asus has X370F gaming. I guess that sounds weird when you say it like that.
It sounds weird when you read it in your head too.
X370F gaming and Strix B350F gaming. Anything special about these motherboards, Jeremy? These are for the Ryzen processors,
Yeah,
obviously.
well, we're pretty familiar with the Strix boards by now, I think.
Yeah.
And these ones carry on pretty much the exact same thing. You've got their Supreme FX audio. Of course, you now have proper HDMI 1.4b support, which is nice to see.
Nice.
Both have M.2s, but the X370 has significantly more SATA, pretty much as you'd expect.
Right.
3 PCIe 3.0 16 buys, and support for Crossfire and SLI. So it's your good old Strix.
It's
But
cool
it's
that
got-
like the B350, which is the lower cost version for this
Yeah.
platform, still like looks like a nice motherboard, right? Like just in terms of styling and whatnot.
But honestly, all they really did was dump a bunch of SATA ports off of it.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty much the same, including the Aura RGBs if you want them.
I want everybody to understand that as I read this title, I had to think for probably four or 5 seconds, which processor
Yeah.
is this chipset for?
Yeah, yeah. This number thing.
We could potentially have two parallel B350 chipsets that do not work with each other.
Yeah, if
the rumors
8th
are
gen
correct.
of a Z370
Yeah.
and
If the
and
rumors of an
B350 come
8th gen Intel with B350
out-
at
Oh, Lordy.
the end of the summer is true, it's going to be a shit show.
Oh,
And the CPU
fun times,
models
everybody.
won't be that far off either.
No.
All right. This news story is interesting. And I know, Josh, you did some reading on this as well. Jeremy did the post of the extreme ultraviolet lithography is the hope of reducing process size below current size. And it looks like
gates all around, man.
a 5
Yeah.
nanometer chip that, as far as I can understand, was printed on paper. Right, Josh?
Yeah, pretty cool. No,
Oh.
not at all.
Mm.
No, I wrote up a bigger thing than this. This is just the essential news post that they talked about, that they have achieved a 5 nanometer, or so they say. It is a silicon nanosheet based processor. So instead of having FinFETs, which are essentially a channel surrounded by 3 gates, if I've got that correct.
Yep.
And now they have totally enclosed it, so it's like a rectangle with 4 gates all around it. That's what the nanosheets can do. They have utilized EUV to create this. There are many questions. We can go over this, more thoroughly next week with my. Unless you just want me to do it now.
No, it's fine. We can do it next week. I think it's interesting. First of all, I love photos of inside fabs that are all yellow. Yeah, no, I think we saved this, but I want to dive more into this and see.
Transistor tech is interesting.
Man, it's so. This looks like something out of like a 1960s sci-fi like illustrated book, right? This is where the aliens live, clearly, and these are the underground tunnels.
It is.
But yeah, 3DX Point and GAFET on the same day will make people's heads explode.
I'm gonna say cross point so that Alan's head
Sorry,
doesn't
cross
explode.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all right.
and chalcogenide. It's not chalchinide or
Not
chalcogenide. Or,
activates.
Cacao.
Or activates.
Before I forget, I do want to say we did get another patron who edited their pledge from $3 to $4. That is an increase of $1. King of Cache, Harami Gelstrom just edited their pledge.
He is
Harami
the king of cash.
Gelstrom, King of Cache, $3 to $4. And I had to read. I will say I had to read the second half of his name, the Jeremy Hellstrom joke, to understand that I was supposed to say cache instead of like
You didn't spell it phonetically?
instead of cash or something like that, like a hillbilly version of cache. But everybody's got to have their own thing. Here's an interesting rumor: Windows 10 Pro, a new edition, is purportedly being planned in a leaked slide. For Windows 10 Pro for workstation PCs, and it has 4 advertised features: Workstations mode, REFS, SMB Direct, and the ability to use up to 4 CPUs and 6 terabytes of memory.
Oh God! Finally.
so they're just taking like the server, the enterprise server, like kernel, and they're just taking those limits and they're just porting it over to what would otherwise be like a regular like Windows build without all the server service stuff built in
Right.
for like when you first start it up, and it's like, what do you want to do with your server, right?
So I'm
And
a
on
little
the
bit.
plus side, it's not NT.
I'm curious
yeah.
because they say there's 4 data points, and one of them is workstation mode, which is full benefits of massively multi-core server-grade CPUs and high-end PC hardware.
Yeah.
But then the 4th data point, which is kind of cutting off the page here, is run demanding workloads by running Windows 10 Pro workstation PCs on high-end configurations. Oh, okay. So it's
more
socket
CPUs
count and memory as opposed to higher core. I think those are pretty much
Yeah.
the same. But what's REFS?
Resilient file system.
Meaning
It's NTFS on steroids to be super like fault tolerant.
Is it slower, faster?
It's
Is it going to be
similar.
slower because
might be a
its-
little bit more overhead. Depends on if the discs are fast.
Alright.
But you know,
And
It's
then
really resilient about being launched.
you run check disc on it, and it basically does a Jedi hand wave, and it's like you do not run check disc on REFS.
But does that mean everything's fine?
Yeah, supposedly.
Okay. Like if you say I can't run it, and then the shit's also broken. That's bad.
It's supposed to anything that could possibly need to be fixed. It's supposed to do on the fly,
Alright.
like continuously.
And what's SMB Direct? What are the benefits there?
Samba Direct. So like,
Facilitates file transfer between PCs with high speed, low latency, and low CPU utilization.
I mean, it's probably just a newer, beyond 3.0 version of Samba, I would imagine. Unless they're doing some kind of iSCSI / Samba hybrid mix thing. I don't know. I hadn't read about that yet.
I don't know. And so that'll be interesting. So that'll be probably not inexpensive. would
No,
be my
not at
guess.
all.
It uses RDMA.
Oh,
Is that remote DMA?
yeah, that's the same stuff we were talking about with the Micron.
Oh, the big server thing that they were
The
doing with
storage,
the NVMe over.
Dang it.
Apparently, it's been in Server 2012 and R2 and stuff like that. So it's not
Okay.
necessarily a new feature, but
Remotely, access NVMe directly across the other system by just. But it probably wouldn't be just for NVMe. It'd just be for storage stuff in general.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
probably
for
just- it's just-
anything you'd use Samba for. It's lower
Yeah.
CPU overhead.
Oh yeah, way lower. Yeah, cool.
And our last news story: Micron announced a push, like basically their planned availability for GDDR6. This was Tim wrote this up for us. Micron's graphics design team in Munich was able to achieve impressive 16 gigabits per second in their high-speed test environment. And they did that on on a meaningful sampling of its mass production GDDR5X silicon, which makes the feat more impressive. Now I will say, as you look at this graphic, they put GDDR5X and GDDR6 kind of in the same grouping.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand. I guess I don't know what the benefits are of 6 over 5X.
They don't make it clear in that chart.
They do not, and they don't. I don't know if they make it clear in any of the text.
Maybe
released
they mean
with
that
it, but-
both could scale effectively to the same bandwidths or something.
I mean,
maybe.
16 gigabits per second is high, and significantly higher than what we're at today. Like
Yeah.
NVIDIA is running at 11 gigabits per second.
Yep.
Is their highest kind of out of the box performance speed.
Yeah, but that's with a lot of parallelism as well, right? Like, or is that just single die?
Yeah.
Each die is doing 11
Yeah.
gigabits a second. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, they're running at 11,000 megahertz.
Okay.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Effective. Yeah.
Effective, yes. So GDDR6 will have a new larger package, faster base sort speeds. So GDDR6 will start at 12 gigabits per second as opposed to G5X starting at 10. And it's moving to a dual channel approach with channels that will have half as many I/O links. So G5X had by 16 and by 32, while G6 will be by 8 and by 16 per channel. Josh, anybody know the benefit of that, of decreasing the I/O link?
Less lanes, less data lanes for. So it'd be easier to drive, but you'd need more dies in parallel to get the same.
Yeah, that's to get the bandwidth that
Yeah,
you'd
to
want
get
on
the
bit, right?
bandwidth,
Like
yeah.
I was trying to think. There's like no fundamental change here that would make that.
I mean, as you get higher in your clock rates like that, the more of those lanes that you have, the more data lines you have, the
Yeah.
higher the power consumption. Because it just requires
Right.
more power to drive things at a faster frequency, right? So
I gotcha.
it's probably just down to like how much power can we get into the chip in a typical package versus, driving X number of lines. So
Right.
probably just like, all right, something's got to give and we got to cut the lines in half. Goes really fast, but you need twice as many chips,
Right.
which doesn't sound like a solution to the problem.
You know, I don't. I guess it depends on what the problem is you're trying to solve.
Well, it's
Like,
also how many dies per package are we talking
Right.
about?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could also actually talk about more granularity of memory accesses with 6.
Okay.
I mean, so you've got the same amount of packages, but you're chopping down the actual access to dies in half the lanes, but you've got double the dies and per package. In theory, you can design a memory controller to have a higher granularity for those packages. Am I making sense here? Does that make
Yeah, I
sense
mean,
to you?
Yeah, it does.
not knowing if it does it seems like a reasonable assertion.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 256 bit of memory controllers instead of each being 2 by 128. You're gonna have 4 by 64 or
Right.
8 by 32. But you've got to design your GPU with the memory controllers to be able to handle that. So you're not talking about probably more chips. You're just talking about more kind of dies per
Yeah.
module,
Mm,
maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. All right, so let's finish this show up by getting to our hardware software picks of the week. Here's mine, everybody. You prepared to be wowed?
Loud.
Wowed. How about this? The Flowtron.
How does that cover a half acre? It's tiny.
Electronic
'Cause they-
insect killer.
Because they can see it from a half acre
How quick
away.
does a
so-
Bitcoin mine?
I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
find out tonight when I hook it up.
So
I
in
probably hook it up tonight.
In 1986, my
Ah,
family
yeah.
bought one of the older versions of this and put it up.
Oh, they were awesome.
And we all got folding chairs out and sat around as dust came about to watch it zap all the mosquitoes. It was glorious.
So
Until that moth came around and you all got showered by bug bits.
that's
We
true.
didn't care. We all did the oohs and ahs of the
It was
fireworks
worth it.
when the moth came in. Yes.
So my daughter happened to get she is overtly allergic to mosquito bites. Like they get big on her. They even
They
like
welt up.
they welt up. They get like water and stuff underneath
Ugh.
the scab sometimes. And she got bit like right on the corner of her eye
Oh, that's like the worst.
on the on, like the weekend, like right here. And so the next day she woke up, eye completely swollen shut.
Ugh.
Could not open her eye at all. Felt awful. And I vowed at that moment, I went
I
on a
will
Facebook
protect
chat.
you from-
I put on a
As
Facebook
God
chat.
is my witness.
My Grafta's hammer.
I said I went on a chat with all of my neighbors, and I said I want to apologize in advance. And I sent them a picture of my daughter with the eye. I said because of this, I will have the largest, most elaborate mosquito killing devices in my yard from this day forward. Interesting thing.
But they ixnayed on the flamethrower.
You couldn't find any lasers?
No. Also within reasonable cost frames as well. Sorry, I'm a line. So also I found out mosquitoes aren't attracted to UV light.
No.
They're not. So how do you attract them to the Flowtron?
Is it
What do you think?
ionized?
You feed it your own blood, don't you?
You could do that, or instead you could get these
Oh, you have to
packets
do that.
of
Yeah.
attractant, which are octanol,
Yeah.
which is essentially like a pseudo carbon dioxide. So apparently mosquitoes are attracted
They
to
like
your
carbon dioxide.
exhalation of breath. That's how they find
So is that like
mammals.
artificial
Yeah.
CO2?
Yeah.
It's weird.
So I had to not only get a bug zapper, but I had to get some tricks to lure them in. And then it turns out they make, those like scrunchy bracelets that kids have a lot of. That was Emily. They make those that are coated in citronella.
So they smell
Yeah,
awful?
that's not going to help much.
I like the smell of citronella.
Citronella's not.
I like the smell of citronella. I do.
Weird.
So now she wears those. She's wearing those when she goes outside. So prepare to die, all bugs.
Bring that up again. I love that second warning. Scroll down.
Which one?
What was the second
Scroll
one?
Not
down.
put finger
scroll
in.
down. There it is. Recommended not to be used within 25 feet of area intended for human activity.
So
Should not be attached to a house or deck.
I read some Ruse views on that, and the reason they say that has nothing to do with the electrical issue or anything like this.
The chemical
chemical
or-
is harmless. It is bug bits.
Oh,
It is
don't get
what
hit
Jeremy
by-
described at the beginning. It is
hit by shrapnel.
shrapnel of bug bits
Yeah,
getting sent your way.
and they do go
So-
flying.
Yeah, my understanding
yeah.
is that as well.
So Ryan, you opted for a 1.5 acre coverage area.
I did
on-
not yet. I did not yet. But there will probably be multiple of these instead.
He's gonna get the
I'm gonna put them in a circle around my fence
just
line,
like all the way around.
like every 4 feet. There's gonna be one. I don't know. It's waiting for me to install it tomorrow at home. So we'll see how that goes. Mosquitoes are gonna be dead for sure. Who's up next? What was your pick? Let me. Jeremy, what do you got? No,
That's Josh.
is it Josh?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's Jeremy.
It's
Josh
supposed to be
next.
Jeremy.
Oh,
Yeah, well, Josh's pick is so amazing it needs to go before me.
Okay, go for
This
it,
is
Josh.
my software pick of the week. And in case you missed it last week, you need one of these.
What? Why?
So soft.
Oh, I get it.
How
But it
many-
has the wrong
You
photo
get
on
it
the
in
front.
multiple colors.
It has the wrong photo on the front.
So
man.
if we
Yeah, well, you
made
know.
T-shirts of Josh, how many do you think we could actually sell? Oh, look at that! There's a U.S. flag in the moon in that one.
Ah,
Nice.
Oh man,
that's pretty cool.
Only 1091. I mean,
What's the 61.99 option?
hold on, here we go.
yeah, I'm not real sure. That's probably
5XL.
5X.
No,
Is that-
no,
You have
not
to
available.
select a T-shirt.
Is it like
You
a
have to select a design. For
is
the
it like a
price that's
1,000
here.
count bed sheet or something that you're getting at that?
The wolves actually howl and glow in the dark.
Oh,
I don't know. Josh, you want to be T-shirt famous? No.
No.
Okay. All right. Can I sell your
Nobody
likeness without your
know what the
permission?
hell.
Probably.
probably.
Sure.
He doesn't care about his likeness.
Oh man. All right. So who else is up?
This is Jeremy.
Jeremy, what do you got for me?
Well, it's a good deal for Canadians
It's
if
not
you
his,
wanted
it's
1
not it.
terabyte drive.
Hang on. Let me
Oh
find
no,
it
he's
here.
got to open it.
The
Click.
A-Data
Click.
Ultimate SU800.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly the newest on the market, but in Canada, it's a damn good price for 1 terabyte drive. $369, $370 when you use the extra $5.
Sweet.
Is it 10 cents per gig?
No.
10 American cents.
Son of a bitch.
Mm.
Oh yeah, this is Canadian, so it's pretty much
It
like
probably
half that
translates
price.
to 10
Yeah.
cents a gig.
That's
There you
why
go.
the price is a little bit different.
There you
Gotcha.
go, Ryan.
Gotcha.
Finally.
All right, Alan. Where's
We
yours
need
at?
we need to do a stream and play this thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Star Trek Bridge Crew. I bought it, played it with a buddy of mine a few days back. It was a riot.
Were you in the same spot? Were you at your house? No, he was remote.
He's
Okay.
in Virginia. I'm here, and then like if you need 2 more spots to fill, if you're trying to, it's 4.
There's no bots, right? You have to get real people in it.
You get well, no, you can have like bots if you want. You can have AI,
Oh, okay.
and they can do AI stuff or whatever. Or you can just get people. You can just get the AI is kind of dumb, right?
They can do AI stuff.
Or you could get just some
Random internet.
folk.
Yeah.
From
That's how
just happen to be
internet
playing the
games
game, and they could be. It's cross-platform, right? They could be playing it with a Vive, a Rift, or
Probably.
or a PSVR. I think is
Yep.
Yeah.
So they could be playing it with whatever, and you don't even know what they're using, whatever, to play,
Yeah.
right? But I will tell you, you get some comical interactions when you put
Probably shouldn't play
random,
that.
possibly redneck people. On
Hey,
the
y'all,
helm,
fire the phasers.
on the helm.
Hey.
Burping and drinking and half drunk, driving around the starship, running it into asteroids and stuff. In
So
Oh,
I
so
saw,
they're doing engineering then.
no, totally at the helm, like just running the ship right into stuff. And I'm like,
Hey, Captain.
and I'm like trying to raise shields higher as engineer, so like the ship is protected.
Did
from
you
running
have
into
to
the
say I
things.
can't give it any more power, Captain?
No, I didn't
No.
say that. But like,
So I saw a demo of this week while I was out of town of 4 people on Vives
yeah.
playing this off of a single machine,
Wait, really?
running VMs,
Oh yeah.
and it had 4
It's like-
single slot GPUs
You're really pushing it though.
in each VM.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
That's
well,
freaking impressive.
let's put it this way: it was on a high core count processor.
Sure.
I see.
Right.
Was it
And
doing the
they-
Linux
they were
thing where
running?
it's the VMs are like it's directly passing through the hardware, so the GPU is
Uh,
like
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Each VM had its own GPU,
yeah.
and I think they had Tesla P4000s in it. So what's that equivalent of? 1070 or 1060?
1070.
Yeah, I
1070.
mean the game isn't super
Yeah.
graphically
So you can probably get
demanding.
away with any 4 GPUs that are VR ready.
We were talking about it earlier this week. We have 2 Vives, 2 Rifts,
Yeah.
and 4 PCs with GPUs in them. We won't be
Yep.
sitting next to each other, but
So
we
is
could
this
kinda-
Vive and Rift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and PSVR,
Oh, okay.
which
I
we
thought it was only
also
on
have somewhere around
Rift
here.
for some reason. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean it's a lot of fun.
It looked neat.
And I just and if you follow any of the stuff for, I know Ryan, you're not a Star Trek guy, you're a Star Wars guy, but like
I am.
if you've been watching Star Trek for any period of time, like the kinds of things you hear them do in the show where you're like, I wonder how that would actually work, like reroute power from this to that or whatever on the ship, like you can actually do it, and I didn't even know like
Is it fun though to
it's
do?
fun. Yeah,
To me,
like,
it
it's
seemed like
This could be great because I've like never watched Star
You can-
Trek.
like,
I'm
you
gonna be
can-
in there.
Like you can kind of you risk damaging random systems like the engines or whatever, but you can actually like kind of overclock them. You can reroute stuff from the power from the shields to the engines, and the ship actually goes faster and maneuvers quicker. Like it's interesting.
But nobody's
right?
actually flying the ship.
Yes, someone's flying the ship. There's a helm.
They're like,
Controlling, yes. You
Okay.
you grab a well, it's kind of like a it's
Like a
not
joystick,
It's a little
essentially?
arrow. It's like a D-pad that you virtually hold with your finger on the
Okay.
screen and move it up and down.
oh,
and left
sure.
and right.
I just wondered if it would be like fun more than a couple of times.
There's a
I've heard some stories of people getting on there and having the most fun when it's just random
people
people playing.
Well,
as
not just the random people, but there's like some small subset of campaigns or whatever that you go through, right? And they're kind of scripted, right?
Right.
So if you just play a given thing, it's just going to be the same thing with just different people or whatever, right? But there is just a random like roll of dice and just random crap will happen
Yeah.
among us of the subset of things that can happen. You know,
Gotcha.
it's kind of limited, but it's it's enough to where there's variation and you can not know what's going to happen like getting into it, right?
Right.
Like they're telling us to go check out this system over here, and you don't have no idea what's going to be there when you get there, right?
So does it use LCARs or are you just flipping switches?
Okay, so that's actually I think the coolest part of this game. There is the modern version, not LCARs, but like the spun-off version of the more recent movies
Yeah,
of the consoles,
The
where
alternate
everything,
timeline.
yeah, the alternate timeline where you actually have it's to the point where there's actually like holographic kind of like screens that are just popping up, showing you stuff to like above the panel, right? So it's not like the Star Trek style LCARs, the next generation stuff. That's not in it. I wish they had one for that, but it's like the new stuff, or if you really want to go retro and
Yeah, you could do Kirk.
you can do the original series style where you actually, if you don't pull up the help thing that shows you what button is what, it's because think of the original series. It was literally a panel that they just put some like different color, like light bulb switches all over, right?
There were no labels for them.
And there are no labels on anything.
Yeah.
They all actually have functions in this game. You could theoretically memorize what switches did what on the panel to like make the ship do the different things, which is I just think hilarious. Just a panel full of just random colored buttons.
How many times have you played it? Because I wanted, in the same way that I like to drive backwards on the racetrack,
Oh, great.
I would go do
You just hit
on all
random,
the buttons on the
hit
thing.
random buttons.
Yeah.
It'll do random stuff and make the ship do random
It'll do.
things. You could, yeah.
And then as I rage quit, I'll be like, Star Wars rules. Click. Right. That sounds.
Yeah, call me when we can do a Mon Calamari Star Cruiser, and we'll hook up then.
when you could do the Kessel Run.
No, it's not. You can't.
21 parsecs or something like that.
4 parsecs.
I think
4,
it'd be.
whatever.
I think
21 is what I would do it in.
I think a Millennium Falcon style version of this would be amazing.
Yeah, but you can have as many people. Well, you can
No,
have 3.
You got
four
the
people.
gunners, you got the
two
gunners.
guns and the 2 people
Yeah.
driving.
Okay,
driving.
yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody could be a droid going back and forth, running into walls and stuff.
I'd do that.
Yeah.
but that could be so phenomenal, like of a game, right? And actually having to do stuff like in Star Wars universe, like we
Yeah.
got to go and
Yeah.
Cool universe.
There you go. So if you have a VR
smuggle
headset,
stuff
give
in
it
the
a
Millennium
shot.
Falcon, right? Go on smuggling runs. That would be amazing.
All right, so let's end the show, everybody. We'll be back next week. We'll have things to talk about. Blah blah blah. Words, I don't know.
Words.
PCPro.com/podcast. Go there and find all the links to the stories we talked about. The hardware picks. If you need a mosquito killer, you need a T-shirt, or whatever, you can get those links there. Otherwise, we'll be back next week, I guess. So see you next time. I'm Ryan Shroud.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Dash Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Annunciation.
Annunciation.
Bye.
Isn't
I
there?
saw someone tweeting about
It's like the first thing that you end up trying to do for a training thing, I think.
But yeah, that's obviously the
Yeah.
first thing you do is the code.
Cavaliers
it.
lost
That's about
again.
as far as my Star Trek knowledge.
And by the way, it is extremely freaking hard. You're trying to lock on to transport people out, and like you can't do that if the shields are up, and you got people just shooting the crap out of you at random.
Got
and-
Ryan trolling you.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan would be like driving the ship into asteroids and stuff on purpose. And
Guys, what's this?
God, they'd never expect that.
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see them running a VM in 4. What I didn't look at was what their lighthouse situation was like.
You can
Can you just use 2 if
Yeah.
all 4 are in the same room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
you just as long as you're within the same box. Like there's literally
Yeah,
no,
they basically had like a banquet table
Yeah.
with 2 computers, outward facing on each side, and
Yep.
the 4 people standing out there. It was neat. And
I gotta say,
they
that's
showed
impressive.
everybody playing it, and they're like, "Look, see how great our hardware runs this game." And they're like, "Oh, by the way, it's all on one machine
that's pretty
running
that's
VMs."
pretty cool.
Now, it would be better if it was like 1 GPU as well, but that's a different virtualization concern.
Put a grid in there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And a hell of a GPU.
can you not subdivide even like a 1080 Ti in virtualization?
You can only do it with grid GPUs,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I believe.
interesting. Because a 1080 Ti probably has enough to run 4, maybe not. Maybe you'd have to have 2
Yeah.
to run 4 VR instances of random VR game.
but I don't think it's got the ability to subdivide itself into VRs.
I
Yeah.
don't think it does.
I don't think
I
you can
don't
do
think
the
it does.
addressing in that.
Have we? Okay, so
Be neat.
what games use the what's that multi-pane, like the NVIDIA version of the VR? It's supposed to be super efficient on your GPU resources for VR.
Well, I mean, they have several.
Where it draws a scene one time and
Simultaneous multi
it
protection.
does SMP.
Yeah.
Is that in games yet?
Yeah.
Well, do we know is there a list like what games use it or whatever? Like
I
there-
don't know off the top of my head.
it's just like they touted it so
But
much.
like
and
the
then
Unreal Engine integrated it at some point.
Oh, okay.
So
So if it's in engines, then okay. Then that
Just waiting for the chat to catch up and tell us the 87 games it's in.
because I mean, it was one of those. So one of those techs was like not developer dependent, and one of them was.
SMP. Well, it was supposedly just a few lines of code. Remember? It was like 10 lines of
Yeah.
code or whatever. You can add it really easy to your
Yeah.
thing. But then it went months without appearing in anything.
The lens match shading is the other one I was trying to think of.
Oh.
And that one I think maybe is
I think that was harder.
it was where it subdivides it into like 9 segments, and it will
Yep.
allow you to have a higher resolution for the center than the outward one because they get compressed anyway.
I don't think that was
That
the
one, I don't-
simple lines of code statement from Tom.
Yeah, but they integrate that one into an engine too, so I don't know.
Yeah.
They still have to be enabled, right?
Yeah, because it was like for the longest time, it was like the only thing it was in was like the Funhouse thing, or whatever that is, the NVIDIA.
Yeah, it was Funhouse.
Yeah, NVIDIA VR Funhouse.
Yeah, it was in that. That's all good and fine, but like, I mean, come on, like, why isn't it in more stuff? But
Stupid Cavaliers game.
Wikipedia article on.
I don't
this.
even really care. I just don't want like I don't have anything against the Warriors. I just don't want them to win in 4. Like, make it more interesting for me as somebody who just wants to watch basketball.
Basketball goes on too long.
Just make it interesting.
Of course you do, Jim. You're supposed to hate Star Trek games. They're all awful. There was one back in the 90s that was worth playing, and then the Unreal first-person Klingon one. And pretty much other than that, they were all crap.
Yeah.
But there's a Stellaris mod you should check out. Holy crap, is it good.
Well, what is this?
There's a full conversion Stellaris to Star Trek. New Horizons. It's frickin' impressive.
Oh.
I heard about that.
It's the best Star Trek game I've ever played.
The mod.
Well, I'm
Sadly.
disappearing for a weekend.
What was the one that Ritual did?
Wasn't that the Klingon one?
What about Star Trek
It
on?
might have been.
It's got an email
No.
from Skype. That's not great. We've noticed you are, or previously were, using an older version of Skype.
Not
Oh yeah,
anymore.
they're deprecating a whole crap load of Skype
It
versions.
says after July 1st, you will no longer be able to sign in to keep these older versions of Skype.
yeah.
Did you recently
It's
update?
part
Great,
of
you
their
can ignore
new
this email.
Jeremy, what
Upgrade
was-
or else?
What was that game, Jeremy? That you were
Great.
saying? I'm gonna look it up.
New Horizons. Let
New
me double
Horizons.
check that.
New Horizons.
Elite
Federal
Force
Credit
2.
Union.
That's what it was. Sorry.
New Horizons.
Oh yeah. Okay, that one was actually decent.
Game.
Yeah.
Come on, Stellaris. Where's my mods? Yeah, Star Trek New Horizons.
So what's the solution on the audio? I want to know. Is it that we
Okay,
just
so-
Jeremy and
we
Josh
just-
aren't allowed to be on the show anymore? is
No,
that what
we're-
the answer
we're
Yeah,
is?
just- We're
sorry.
just going to
Ground.
switch back to Skype. That's all there is to it.
Skype was doing it last
Well-
week.
No. I don't think
No,
it was.
once I got to Skype, it settled down.
That's,
But if I go, so if I go Firefox, it's temporal stuff. It like starts to really slow down and then snaps to catch up, but the volume
That-
stays.
That must be
The same.
us to you because we don't hear any of that.
It goes both ways. He was desyncing earlier in the show, and he jumped off and went back to Chrome, which then caused
And-
everything to bounce.
here's a stupid question
But
that I know we're gonna get.
You
some
never
flack.
get.
There's
the
no stupid
weird
questions, Ken.
temporal
Have you
Tell me
tried
what it is.
Edge?
There's just stupid people asking
No,
questions.
I offered
No,
to.
like seriously,
I-
like
I
the
offered
WebRTC
to
just to
implementation in
give it a
Edge is
shot.
probably pretty good.
Yeah.
it's true.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
It's yet another week where it could fuck up during the
Well,
podcast.
yeah, but we just give it 10 or 15 minutes, and if it's screwy, we just go Skype.
January 31st, 2017, blogs.windows.com introduces WebRTC and interoperable real-time communications in Microsoft Edge.
Ooh.
Codec interoperability.
I'll pull the extra PVDAX out so we can set up both Skype and vMix call. And if it doesn't work, we'll just swap it over.
And what was our more recent issue with Skype? You could only log in twice?
That was a weird issue where I don't know what the actual issue was, but the base account, our non-enumerated live account,
Yeah.
it automatically logs in. And if you try to log out with that account and then log in again, it says you're already logged in.
Mm.
So you can log in with the 2 and the 3 account at the same time, but not the 1 and the 2. It was really weird. But it worked. I got it working. Sort of. We'll see what the update does.
I can only fix it, right? Updates can only fix it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, of course.
All right, so let's see. What's on our thing for tomorrow? Do we want to do shelf building tomorrow? Or do we want to not? Oh, you screwed up something.
Yeah, missing,
beta operating system.
missing X's for half of the apps, and I should be able to do
With 3D Touch, I find it incredibly difficult to balance between a hard click on an app and holding my finger on it long enough to bring
Oh,
up the
it's
X to
stupid.
uninstall.
It doesn't work.
It's like it'll take me 3 attempts to do it because I do it. The second time I do it wrong, I click it and open it instead or something.
It's,
I mean, that's kind of cool though, Ryan.
No, nothing about it is cool. Oh yeah, the new control thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Somebody's sending me the new, what is it? Is it the 10.5-inch iPad? Yeah, we didn't talk about those at all. Is that the A10X?
Fusion. A10X Fusion.
What's the difference?
I don't know.
Faster,
Well, you were very particular that I clarify.
faster, and for the first
What they call it.
and for the first time, their little graphical performance plot was not an exponential increase. It actually like turned linear.
Oh no, idiot!
That was probably a
Losers.
mistake.
Losers.
Yeah. You don't need to double the graphics performance every single generation.
Why not?
I mean, it's nice, but you know, if you can, sure. But
Yeah.
guessing they probably start.
Let
hitting
me
a brick
let me
wall.
double check here while I'm thinking about it and see when I get home next week. See if I'll be here or not. Let's find out. Actually, this will be easier on my phone. I leave late Sunday evening. Like I don't get out there until like 11 p.m. or something like that.
Portland.
I take
I'm
a red
gonna
eye
run.
home. Okay, goodbye.
Gotta get cracking on stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Yeah, so no, I take the Tuesday night red eye home. That's my happy face. So yeah, I'll be home by like 9 a.m.
Right. I'll go ahead and throw a ticket into vMix and see if they have an answer to it, because
Yeah, it's worth
Yeah,
a
I'd love
shot.
to know.
I mean, we just paid them a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
I
We
wonder
did
if
do
it's
that.
the USB sound card.
But it's the browser that's doing it.
Well, the USB sound card is allowing itself to be controlled by the browser. I don't know if analog audio would do the same.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
have
just
an
my-
analog-
You're talking about the sound card of the microphone?
Yeah, the headset.
Okay.
But the thing is, a lot of people are using that kind of a
I
headset.
don't. I
so,
don't
like,
care if it should work or not. I care what does work. Like it should
Right,
work.
right.
Like that's never gotten us anywhere, as it turns out.
Yeah.
That could be my stupid ass Cougar Point friggin' motherboard too.
Rare.
I don't even remember what code name that is.
Is it a code
was-
name? I don't know.
Yeah. Just honestly, I don't remember what the hell the name of the motherboard is.
Rooker, you can't just say Windows sucks to an audio problem. Linux audio is an abomination.
When's the last time we tried anything?
Linux
under
has audio?
It has
It
not
does.
changed.
I thought it was just they
assure
just
you.
used internal speakers to go beep boop 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 beep boop boop.
Yeah, just
I thought it was just shells.
just use the
they
PC
only need an audio
speaker.
for a shell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see they added?
Does Vim need an audio output for that?
You see they added FLAC to iOS 11?
No, wasn't there. You couldn't play back FLAC?
Oh God, no.
Oh.
Not on any Apple device.
Yeah,
Well, you
it's-
could on Mac OS, but
Oh, there you go.
you had to
you need
install
a-
something.
You need a third party
Yeah.
thing of decode.
No, I don't think we're live streaming a shelf building process
No,
of 2x4s and plywood.
no.
Not plywood.
It'll be very
Presswood.
boring, and actually, it won't take that long. Like, it's just we're adding 2 shelves to the shelves.
Where are you adding them?
In the upper
middle.
half. Like, so basically, instead of having this huge shelf, we're just going to put
Yeah.
them halfway.
Let's see.
We need to do it.
Just on 2 of them.
We're going to do it on 2 of them. I have a feeling I'm going to want to do it to all of them.
I don't know.
I have a feeling. Just looking over there at the edge of that shelf now with the Oreo cookies on top.
Well, then let's just get double what we're gonna get.
I mean, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, just get
We don't
2.
often have things that are this tall.
Yeah, I mean, I
Need
was
to be
trying to
stacked.
stack
Well,
to
what if
get
you do?
what was there.
Then you got the bottom.
Put in-
we
that's
leave
what
the,
the
we leave the
bottom
bottom part un.
Yeah.
Done.
And we still need to go through a lot of that stuff that's in there.
Ugh, that's never gonna happen.
I don't know.
I don't want to say never, but probably. Okay, that's it for us, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be
Thanks,
back
guys.
next week, and we'll talk about things
Stuff.
and stuff.
Thanks for
E3.
watching.
E3 happens next week, so we'll talk about E3 announcements.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Xbox Scorpio, Far Cry 5, all that good stuff.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
See, wanna be